I've always had a laid-back, non-competitive personality. So, during the 5 years I dated my campus belle girlfriend, I was always super chill about everything, but just because she wanted to see me get jealous. While I was busy making her a custom birthday cake, she actually ran out in a torrential downpour to bring an umbrella to a junior. She thought no one would ever find out. Who knew that a video of her and that junior hugging in the rain would instantly blow up all over the Qingbei campus network? Early the next morning, Shen Qingxuang was bombarded by her bestie's relentless, rapid-fire phone calls. As soon as she answered, Heartless immediately tore into her. Shen Qingxuang, are you an idiot? The sudden scolding left Shen Qingxuang a bit dazed. You have such a great boyfriend like Lu Chen, and you don't even cherish him, and you're actually messing around with another guy. Is your brain full of mush? After being chewed out by her best friend, Shen Qingxuang sharply caught the key information in her words. A wave of unease instantly welled up in her heart. She shot up from her chair. What do you mean? Explain it to me clearly. Heartless scoffed coldly. Let me ask you, where are you right now? Shen Qingxuang was just about to speak when she suddenly remembered that at this very moment, she was at the hospital, keeping Xiao Chusheng company. She swallowed the words right back down. Heartless obviously guessed why she didn't dare to answer, and her anger flared even hotter. You're still at the hospital with that Xiao Chusheng, aren't you? You're going to be the death of me. Do you have any idea that the video of you two is already going viral on the campus network? Boom! It felt like something had violently smashed into Shen Qingxuang's brain. Only then did she remember that she had promised to pick me up. But after rushing Xiao Chusheng to the hospital, she had completely forgotten all about it. She frantically hung up the phone. Upon unlocking her screen, a dense wall of missed calls instantly popped up. Most of them were from me. At that moment, Shen Qingxuang felt as if her heart was being tightly squeezed by something. She hurriedly opened our chat interface, ready to explain herself. But her hand was suddenly gripped tight by Xiao Chusheng beside her. With red eyes, he said in a aggrieved voice, Qingxuang, don't go. He had overheard the gist of what Heartless just said, and knew that yesterday's incident had already spread. But he felt there was nothing wrong with liking someone. So what if he used a few tricks? He clung to Shen Qingxuang's hand and begged, don't go. Don't leave me alone in the hospital. Shen Qingxuang shook her head, her eyes full of panic. Chusheng, stop messing around. The caregiver will be here soon. Just be good and rest. As soon as she said that, Shen Qingxuang turned to leave, but Xiao Chusheng recklessly chased after her, right out of his hospital bed. He tripped over a chair and crashed hard onto the floor. Shen Qingxuang, who had just stepped out of the ward, paused and quickly turned back. Seeing this, Xiao Chusheng burst into tears. Qingxuang, it hurts so much. Please don't go, okay? Don't leave me all alone. My mom passed away in a hospital. Please don't abandon me. I'm so scared. His cries were so helpless and terrified, as if Shen Qingxuang was the only pillar of support in his world. But reason told Shen Qingxuang that if she didn't show up at the agreed time, I would definitely be furious. However, thinking back to the time I carried her out of a burning building, Shen Qingxuang's anxious heart gradually calmed down. No, Lu Chen loves me so much. How could he not give me a chance over something so small? After all, he even braved a fire for me. Time ticked by, minute by minute. I stared at the empty seat in front of me, lost in thought. 10 minutes passed. Another 10 minutes passed. Shen Qingxuang still hadn't shown up. At this point, it had been exactly 1 hour since our agreed-upon time. Was I disappointed? Probably, but not that disappointed. It was like asking a question when I already knew the answer. So this outcome wasn't exactly a surprise. I originally wanted to break up face-to-face, but it seemed we wouldn't even get this final meeting. I put on my sunglasses, looked down, and posted the drafted message to my WeChat moments. A few minutes later, the Qingbei campus network exploded once again, because someone had screenshotted my moments post. Happy to be single. Attached was a bright, radiant photo of me smiling. The comment section instantly turned into a massive gossip fest. Ah, my god-tier crush is finally single again. His face is flawless. I'm licking the screen, drooling. Family, our campus god belongs to all of us again. Senior, don't be so strict about gender. I can bend for love. Sorry you had to see that, everyone. That's seriously disgusting. Someone wake this bastard up with a splash of reality. If the guy above me can't do it, I'll step in. But seriously, with the senior's looks, how the hell did Xiao, whatever, beat him? The campus network's comment section had completely devolved into chaos. Meanwhile, my own WeChat moments was incredibly peaceful. The most common comment was, hello, senior. I've been waiting for this chance for far too long. Please notice me. Whether it was people I was close to or barely knew, they were all lining up to confess their love. I smiled and glanced over the notifications. Everyone had a tacit understanding not to mention Shen Qingxuang. My world wouldn't lose all its color just because I lost Shen Qingxuang. It seemed everyone else thought the same. Taking a deep breath, I strode out of this incredibly familiar coffee shop and called my cousin who was overseas. Oh my, if it isn't my handsome little brother. How do you have time to call your big sis? The moment Lu Siki answered my call, she paused. Her meeting, her voice instantly softening. The people in her office were already used to this. After all, as the only boy in the Lu family, everyone was well aware of my special status. Back then, just to protect me, the Lu family spent countless resources to send me back to China, the safest country in the world. Over the years, they had even started gradually shifting the Lu family's assets back domestically. So, halting a meeting wasn't exactly an everyday occurrence for them, but it wasn't too surprising either. I drove my car, facing the sunlight outside the garage, and slowly exhaled a heavy breath before answering Lu Siki. I broke up. Hearing this, Lu Siki's expression instantly changed. Her previously gentle face darkened in a flash. The people in the office exchanged glances, all lowering their heads and holding their breath. The atmosphere in the room dropped to freezing point. As employees of the Lu family, a basic requirement for the job was mastering Chinese. Therefore, everyone present could understand our conversation. Suppressing her anger, Lu Siki stood up and walked out of the conference room. Once she reached her own office, she finally couldn't hold back and kicked over a coffee table. Seeking death, she cursed under her breath before asking worriedly, "Did you cry?" I gave a matter-of-fact, "Yeah," and replied, "We dated for 4 years. After all, it'd be weird if I didn't cry. You lived at home for 15 years, and other than when you were a little kid, when have we ever let you shed a single tear?" Lu Siki's heart ached terribly for me, but she only muttered it quietly, before saying, "You won't be able to hide this from uncle and auntie." I pursed my lips. I wasn't planning to hide it from them. Lu Siki sighed. With my parents' tempers, if they knew their precious little ancestor had suffered such a huge grievance, they probably wouldn't be able to stay abroad for another day. She rubbed her temples, sighed, and said, "Spit it out. What do you want me to do by calling me?" I chuckled. I graduate in a month. After graduation, I don't want to stay in Beijing anymore. Actually, not wanting to stay in Beijing wasn't just because of Shen Shuang. It was because I'd been in Beijing for so many years, I was already tired of it and wanted to travel and see other places. Where do you want to go? Lu Siki asked. I chuckled softly. Hong Kong. Don't you have a branch office over there? It's perfect. I'll have something to do. What do you think? Lu Siki frowned. Although public safety in Hong Kong is better than it used to be, that place can be pretty exclusive. You might not be comfortable there. But before Lu Siki could even think it over, I launched into my usual shameless tactics. "If you don't let me go, sis, I won't eat for 3 days. Lu Siki sighed helplessly. "My little ancestor. Don't you ever get tired of using that trick?" I replied righteously, "Nope, as long as it works." Lu Siki really had no defense against me. After all, she had watched me grow up. Not only was I good at acting spoiled and coaxing people, but I also had the elders and the younger generation of the Lu family wrapped around my finger. If she didn't go along with what I wanted, who knew what kind of tricks this little ancestor would pull next? After pondering for a moment, Lu Siki finally nodded. "I'll have someone arrange a place for you to stay. As for uncle and auntie, you'll have to tell them yourself." After hanging up, I drove straight to the airport. Even though I still had a month until graduation, I had already finished all my coursework for the finance department. All that was left was to wait and collect my diploma. So, this entire month was completely free time for me. Since I decided to stay in Hong Kong for a while, I might as well go now and experience the different local customs and culture. As for clothes and luggage, I could just buy them when I got there. I sent a message to Aunt Zhao, asking her to find someone to drive my car back to the villa, and after telling her where I was going, I turned off my phone. As for Shen Shuang, who was just now rushing to the coffee shop, whatever she was feeling right now, I couldn't care less. 3 hours after I boarded my flight, Shen Shuang finally managed to pacify Xiao Chuxing. Then she dashed out of the hospital without stopping. However, what she didn't expect was that, the moment she stepped out of the hospital, she received the news that I had announced I was single again. Filled with disbelief, she clicked on my WeChat moments, only to be greeted by a single horizontal line. Seeing this, Shen Shuang froze. Did Lu Chen block her, or delete her entirely? The instant this thought surfaced in her mind, Shen Shuang's heart nearly stopped beating. She frantically dialed my number, but the phone only returned a cold, mechanical voice. "The number you have dialed cannot be reached." Shen Shuang had no idea what to do now. She only felt that in this moment of being unable to reach me, her entire world had been turned upside down. Everything before her eyes lost its color. Only a profound sense of panic pressed heavily against her chest. Clinging to her last shred of hope, she rushed to the coffee shop. She looked around desperately, hoping to catch a glimpse of me, but there was nothing. Amidst the coming and going crowds, there was absolutely no sign of me. This coffee shop was opened by Shen Shuang specifically for me. It was also our most frequent date spot. She gazed at the familiar surroundings, as if every table held memories of our dates, us chatting happily, our smiling faces. But in the blink of an eye, everything before her vanished into thin air. Shen Shuang found a staff member and asked, feigning calmness, "Where's Lu Chen?" "Mr. Lu sat here for 2 hours, and then he left. He didn't order anything either." Hearing this, a sharp pain pierced Shen Shuang's heart. She asked again, "When did he leave?" The staff member frowned and thought for a moment. "Let me think. Probably around 10:30. 10:30? Shen Shuang looked down at her phone. I had messaged her at 9:30. So, after arriving at our agreed time, I had waited for her for a whole hour. What was I thinking during that hour? And what kind of resolve had I come to that made me never contact her again? During the entire time she failed to show up. Although she really didn't want to admit it, at this very moment, Shen Shuang's self-righteous confidence completely collapsed. She began to realize that I was truly furious. In all the time we had been together, even though I was a bit proud, I always voiced my displeasure face to face. But this was the first time I had ever been this silent. By doing this now, could it mean he didn't want her anymore? A dense, suffocating pain began to crush her heart. the instant this thought appeared. Shen Qingxuang's eyes stung, and her hands trembled uncontrollably. She returned to her car like a walking corpse, yet her shaking hands, mechanically, dialed my number over and over again. She didn't know how much time had passed. Shen Qingxuang's other phone, sitting on the passenger seat, was also vibrating. It was probably Xiao Chusheng. Unable to reach her main phone, he was calling her backup device, but Shen Qingxuang had absolutely no desire to answer it. She stared blankly at the dim parking lot in front of her, her heart feeling like it was being squeezed tighter and tighter by an invisible hand. She was clearly devastated. Her chest felt suffocated, her head throbbed, and her eyes stung so badly that even blinking felt like an incredibly difficult task. Yet her mind was completely blank. Shen Qingxuang wanted to drive to my house to find me, but found that her hands gripping the steering wheel couldn't muster an ounce of strength. Only then did she realize that she loved me far more than she ever thought she did. In the few seconds, Shen Qingxuang sat there stunned. Heartless called her. Shen Qingxuang hastily answered, and her first words were, "Help me." Heartless paused on the other end of the line, then sighed. "Where are you?" After telling Heartless her location, Shen Qingxuang finally seemed to find an outlet for her emotions. She murmured in agony, "I can't reach Lu Chen anymore. I didn't know it would turn out like this. He must be so hurt. That's why he's ignoring me." As Heartless rushed towards Shen Qingxuang's location, she mocked her. "It's not that you didn't know. You were just greedy. What exactly is wrong with Lu Chen that made you do something so awful to him?" "Shen Qingxuang, if it weren't for the fact that we grew up together, I would absolutely kick you while you're down over this." Heartless racked her brain but couldn't understand what the point of Shen Qingxuang's cheating even was. In terms of looks, although Lu Chen and Xiao Chusheng had different vibes, he was definitely not inferior to Xiao Chusheng. In terms of family background, while the Lu family wasn't overly dominant right now, they had been developing quite well over the years. Xiao Chusheng couldn't even compare to Lu Chen. In terms of talent, although Xiao Chusheng was also a student at Qingbei, he was just an ordinary top student. Compared to someone like Lu Chen, who consistently placed in the top 3 in major competitions, there was a massive gap between them. So where exactly did Lu Chen fall short to make Shen Qingxuang commit such a betrayal? She just couldn't figure it out. After thinking it over and over, Heartless came to only one conclusion. Shen Qingxuang was just being a bitch. Although Heartless's words were harsh, Shen Qingxuang didn't argue back. She lowered her head, asking herself the same question. Why did she do something to betray me? When exactly did it start? It seemed to be because even though I was the perfect kid everyone looked up to and praised, to me, Shen Qingxuang was the most special existence in my eyes. No matter when or where, as long as she was there, my gaze was always fixed on her. In the faint morning sunlight, in the pouring summer rain, in the sweltering autumn wind, in the cold, dry winter snow, or even in the dead of night with the moon hanging high. Whenever she needed me, I would appear by her side without hesitation. Who would have thought that a wealthy young master like me would actually be an amazing cook? But Shen Qingxuang knew. Not only did she know, but I also cooked all her favorite dishes. I wasn't like other men who would make demands of her or throw tantrums, probably because I had never lacked anything growing up. Over time, the sharp, brilliant version of me that others saw seemed to lose all its edges in front of her. So, when Xiao Chusheng appeared, someone with a completely different personality, Shen Qingxuang's attention began to wander. Although Xiao Chusheng seemed gentle, he was incredibly stubborn. Even after being rejected by her multiple times, he still relentlessly pursued her. He would demand a response from her time and time again. Even if he only received the tiniest bit of charity from her, he would be as happy as a kid with candy. Compared to me, who had almost no desires, Xiao Chusheng was just too easy to satisfy. Without realizing it, this unfamiliar sense of accomplishment made her stop resisting Xiao Chusheng's deliberate advances. Her heart began to stray. She started lying to me and started spending more time on Xiao Chusheng. But what did I do wrong? I was just too well behaved around her. That's all. Shen Qingxuang had never, until this moment, realized her own despicability and shame. She slumped weakly against the driver's seat. Even she didn't dare to face such a despicable version of herself. How did Lu Chen face it back then? When Heartless arrived, what she saw was Shen Qingxuang looking half dead, smelling the faint scent of disinfectant on her. Heartless pinched her nose in disgust and questioned, "Don't tell me you went to see Lu Chen wearing these dirty clothes." Hearing Heartless's voice, Shen Qingxuang's unfocused gaze finally shifted to her. She forced a bitter smile. "I'll clean myself up before I go find him." Seeing her like this, Heartless couldn't bring herself to say anything more. She took her to a hotel to wash up and get changed before rushing over to my house. However, the two of them waited at my door for half an hour, and no one came out. Nerves taut, Shen Qingxuang had no choice but to try unlocking the door with her fingerprint. But the moment she placed her finger on the scanner, she received an authentication failed prompt. Shen Qingxuang's heart skipped a beat. Just as she was about to try again, Aunt Zhao's voice came from behind her. "Miss Shen." The two quickly turned around to see Aunt Zhao carrying some bags. Shen Qingxuang took a deep breath and said cautiously, "Aunt Zhao, I'm here to see Lu Chen." Aunt Zhao replied with an indifferent expression, "I know, but the young master went traveling. I don't know when he'll be back. I'm also going abroad for a vacation tomorrow. You don't need to come here anymore." I hadn't told Aunt Zhao what went wrong between Shen Qingxuang and me. But knowing my personality, making such a decisive cut meant that whatever Shen Qingxuang did was unforgivable. That being the case, even though Aunt Zhao used to really like Shen Qingxuang, she wouldn't do anything that went against my wishes now. Seeing Aunt Zhao about to go inside after saying this, Shen Qingxuang hurriedly stopped her, pleading miserably, "Auntie, could you please call Lu Chen for me? I have something to tell him. I'm begging you." Aunt Zhao shook her head helplessly. "I can't help you. If you made the young master angry, the Lu family will fire me." Although Aunt Zhao didn't want to interfere in the matters between Shen Qingxuang and me, she ultimately couldn't hold back. "Miss Shen, you've known the young master for so many years, you should know his temper. I can't imagine what you did to him. The young master has never suffered any grievances growing up, but now you actually made him cry. You've truly disappointed us." Du Chen cried. Shen Qingxuang's throat felt like it was blocked by something. It took her a long time to squeeze out that single sentence. As for Aunt Zhao's question, she couldn't answer it, and she didn't have the face to answer it either. Beside her, Heartless didn't expect me to actually cry. I had made my decision so decisively. They thought I wouldn't even be sad. Seeing Shen Qingxuang's devastated look, Aunt Zhao shook her head and didn't say a word. She just turned around and went into her room. As the door closed in front of her again, tears finally spilled from Shen Qingxuang's red eyes. Her clenched fists turned pale. She was completely at a loss for what to do. How could she salvage this? Heartless took in her miserable state, but in the end, could only let out a sigh. Both of them knew very well they weren't going to see me today. As for the future, suddenly Shen Qingxuang's voice rang out. "No, I have to go find him." With that, she dashed out. Meanwhile, on the other side, I had just gotten off the plane when I ran into a huge scene. A massive fat woman was actually bullying a guy to tears in public. I didn't want to be a busybody, but her next words completely shattered my worldview. At the time, a sudden scream echoed through the airport corridor, piercing through the noise. I pulled down my sunglasses. I saw a guy in his early 20s let out a shriek, his eyes full of panic, and standing right across from him was a fat woman in her 40s. Seeing everyone looking over, she didn't panic in the slightest. Instead, she smirked and explained, "Sorry about that. I accidentally bumped into this little cutie here. Didn't expect him to overreact like this." She deliberately emphasized the word cutie, drawing frequent stares from the passersby. This old cow was trying to eat tender grass. However, some people saw her polite demeanor and actually believed it was just a misunderstanding. But the guy retorted full of grievance. That wasn't the first time she touched me. She kept touching me on purpose on the plane. Who knew that after hearing this, the woman would laugh sarcastically? "Little cutie, you can't just spout nonsense like that. What kind of man haven't I had? Someone like you?" Her sleazy gaze swept over the guy's body. Then she completely flipped the script. "On the plane, you were beating around the bush trying to get my number. You even said I was your spring awakening. I just rejected you, that's all. I didn't expect a grown man like you to take revenge on me like this. Disgusting." Finally, she even threw in a sentence in Cantonese. Morals are really going down the drain these days. You really can't judge a book by its cover. Now the guy was completely unable to defend himself. He was so angry he choked up as he retorted, "You were clearly the one trying to take advantage of me. The flight attendants can testify. I only changed seats because you were harassing me. How can you be so shameless?" But his voice was trembling with tears, lacking any intimidation factor. The crowd didn't believe him either. How could a grown man get harassed? Right at that moment, I took out my phone, snapped a photo, and sent it straight to the staff. Then, I rolled my wrists and walked toward them. That fat woman was still putting on her fearless performance. "Tell you what, if you really want my number, I'll give you a chance. After all, I kind of like seeing you cry like a little bitch. Come on, call me good sister and let me hear it." Right then, I spoke up and cut her off. "A tadpole with a frog tattoo. What the hell are you showing off for?" Amidst the gasps of surprise, I stepped out of the crowd and stood firmly in front of the guy. The fat woman narrowed her eyes at me in displeasure, but seeing that I was alone, she instantly relaxed. "Young man, I suggest you stay out of this." I didn't even pay her any mind. I just took off my sunglasses and tossed them backward. The guy named Yi Chen was stunned for a second, but he instinctively reached out both hands and caught my sunglasses. Without even turning my head, I gave that fat woman the exact same look she gave Yi Chen, looking her up and down from head to toe. Then I let out a mocking laugh. "Auntie, if you need to take a piss, use it as a mirror. With a face like yours, one look is enough to give someone nightmares for 3 days." She was so stunned by my roast that she actually tried to come at me. "I make over 10 grand a month. I'm wearing head-to-toe designer brands. Isn't it perfectly normal for him to hit on me?" Hearing her voice almost made me throw up. If a dog takes a shit on the side of the road, is it doing that just to satisfy your cravings too? As soon as I said that, the fat woman's scalp tightened in disgust. The onlookers watching the drama unfold gradually started looking at her with mocking amusement. Facing the crowd's stares, she refused to back down. So she glared at me fiercely. "This is Hong Kong. I'm warning you, mind your own business." Otherwise, I didn't take her threat seriously at all. Instead, I scoffed. "Otherwise what? I'm waiting. Either you kill me right here and now, or you apologize like a good dog and get the hell out of here." My provocation completely enraged her. She immediately started cursing. "Apologize my ass. You nosed a little prick, sticking your nose where it doesn't belong. I'm not apologizing. What are you gonna do about it? Hit me if you've got the guts. Come on, hit me." My gaze instantly turned ice cold. The next second, I raised my foot and kicked her. With a miserable shriek, the fat woman's filthy curses came to an abrupt halt, but I wasn't done yet. I quickly stepped behind her and kicked her right in the back of the knee. With a heavy thud, the fat woman smashed to her knees. She let out another agonizing scream. You little bastard. She was sweating profusely from the pain. Just as she struggled to stand up, the airport security rushed over and immediately surrounded us. Sir, what are you trying to do? As soon as security arrived, Yi-Chen beside me got even more nervous. He anxiously tugged at my shirt corner. Thank you, but I can handle the rest myself. I'm the one who hit her. You should hurry up and leave, he said, handing my sunglasses back to me. That's when I realized this guy thought I took off my sunglasses just so I could beat someone up. The way he looked at me was full of pure admiration. Meanwhile, in a VIP lounge not far away, a few people were watching the scene with great interest. A girl with burgundy hair was so surprised her jaw dropped. That handsome guy has a really sharp tongue. Another girl chimed in. He really does, but he's in trouble now. Starting a fight at the Hong Kong airport can be a huge deal. If that fat woman decides to be shameless and drag this out, he might end up spending a few days behind bars. At that moment, the girl with burgundy hair looked at the woman sitting in the center. Sister Sia, are you going to play the hero and save the beauty? The woman called Sister Sia had a flash of amusement in her sharp, aggressive eyes. She gently shook her head. He doesn't need it. Just as she spoke, everyone watched as I calmly made a phone call. Immediately after, a voice came through the security captain's walkie-talkie. Right after that, he actually respectfully made a please gesture toward me. Then they directly grabbed the fat woman who was kneeling on the ground, unable to get up, and dragged her away. This scene left all the women in the VIP lounge completely dumbfounded. Sister Sia truly was shocked. How did you know he'd be fine? Wenwan, who was sitting nearby, glanced at her and explained. When that handsome guy got off the plane, he was personally escorted out by the staff. Anyone who gets that kind of VIP treatment from the airport is definitely more than just rich. He's absolutely a big shot. Hearing this, Wenwan immediately turned serious. She turned to look at Hisaya. Sister Sia, should I send someone to look into him? But Hisaya shook her head. No need. Maybe he's just here on vacation. If we investigate him, we might end up offending him instead. Seeing that it was about time, Isia and the others got up and headed toward the boarding gate. Meanwhile, outside the airport, I looked helplessly at Yi-Chen beside me. Is there anything else? He shook his head at first, but seeing me frown, he quickly nodded, his eyes full of admiration. Can I treat you to a meal? I happen to be hungry, so I nodded. Are you familiar with Hong Kong? Yi-Chen immediately replied. Pretty much. I go to school here, so I've been to quite a few places. That put my mind at ease. Then let's find a place to eat. I'm starving too. No problem. Yi-Chen hurriedly ran to the side of the road to hail a cab. Only then did he turn back and say, my last name is Yi-Chen. I nodded. Lu Chen. Hearing my name, his eyes lit up even more. You're seriously amazing. I've never won an argument in my life. Thank God you were here today. I curled my lips into a smile. What a coincidence. I've never lost one. Yi-Chen's expression grew even more worshipful. Then he asked, are you still in school? I nodded. Graduating in June. Then you're a bit older than me. He smiled and proactively opened the car door for me. After you, Brother Lu. Once we got in the car, Yi-Chen eagerly asked for my contact info. He saw my phone constantly ringing with incoming calls, but I ignored all of them. Though curious, he didn't ask any questions. Instead, he excitedly started introducing me to all the fun spots in Hong Kong. Brother Lu, you definitely have to check out Pottinger Street. There's an endless amount of food, drinks, and things to do there. Plus, there are tons of gorgeous girls. Listening to his recommendations, I silently made a mental note of the places that sounded interesting. After we got out of the car and sat down at the restaurant, Yi-Chen suddenly looked around. Then, he lowered his voice and said to me with a serious face, in Hong Kong, Brother Lu, there's only one thing you need to watch out for. My interest was immediately piqued. What is it? Yi-Chen said solemnly. When you're out having fun, if you run into any rich people with the last name He, absolutely do not mess with them. He probably figured out that my background wasn't simple, but he still warned me that even a mighty dragon shouldn't provoke the local snakes. The He family is the undisputed top dog in Hong Kong. Even though I wasn't familiar with Hong Kong, I was still well aware of that fact. I nodded and smiled. Don't worry, I'll keep that in mind. After dinner, I said goodbye to Yi-Chen and stood alone on the neon-lit streets. The evening breeze blew past, making me shiver. The temperature difference in Hong Kong at the end of April was still pretty drastic. I was only wearing a thin shirt, and the cold wind instantly sobered me up. Unable to find a suitable hotel nearby, I had to hail a cab. By the time I checked in, it was already 8 p.m. Looking at my phone, which was almost dead from the constant calls, I furrowed my brows in disgust. Then, I called home. After all, it was already very late overseas, and I wasn't sure if my parents were asleep yet. However, the moment the call went through, it was picked up instantly. On the other end of the line, my dad's refined and mellow voice immediately came through. Chen, did you arrive safely? Hearing my dad's caring words, my eyes welled up with tears. I tried my best to keep my voice steady. Yeah, I'm here. Dad, I miss you and Mom. Hearing my words, my dad's tone instantly filled with worry. Then Mom and Dad will hand over our work and fly back tomorrow to be with you, okay? My heart trembled violently. They knew. If I hadn't suffered some massive grievance, I would never act like this. Right after, my mom's voice came through as well, carrying an unquestionable certainty. Mom thinks that's a great idea, baby. With us around, no one can bully you. We work so hard just so you can have someone to rely on, so don't worry about a thing. Her words were like a warm current, instantly enveloping me. As long as you don't break the law, whatever you want to do, whoever you want to date, Mom and Dad will support you. But right then, my mom weakly added another sentence. It's okay if you don't want to date either. Mom will take care of you for the rest of your life. From their few words, I knew they already knew about what happened between me and Shen Qingxuang. But I didn't say much. I just pretended to be relaxed and replied, I'm fine. I'll still date. I hugged my blanket and rolled over, saying lazily, I'm not the type to get bitten by a snake once and fear ropes for 10 years. Besides, there are so many beautiful women in the world. How could I possibly never fall in love again, right? My mom laughed. My baby is right. With your qualifications, you'll never have a shortage of girlfriends. We just kept chatting casually like that. Before I knew it, I actually fell asleep hugging my phone. However, on the other end of the phone that I couldn't see, listening to my steady breathing, my dad silently muted the microphone. My mom's tightly furrowed brows finally relaxed a little. Speed up the transfer of our assets back to the country. I want to be by Chen's side as soon as possible. It turned out that after I returned to the country for school, my dad had already started transferring the Liu family's massive business empire. But due to interference from multiple parties, they had only managed to transfer half of it so far. Hearing his wife's words, a flash of murderous intent crossed Liu Sheng's deep eyes. But when he looked at my mom, his gaze softened again. Go to sleep early. He had already made up his mind to use more ruthless methods to clear out all the obstacles in their way. I slept until I naturally woke up the next day. When I groggily picked up my phone, I realized the call was still connected. They had actually stayed on the line with me all night. A wave of warmth instantly washed over my entire body. I called out with a hoarse voice, Mom, Dad, are you guys still there? On the other end, Liu Sheng, who was busy in his office, immediately signaled for everyone around him to be quiet. His voice instantly softened. You're awake? You're awake. I climbed out of bed and pulled open the curtains. Looking at the ocean waves outside, I stretched. Dad, are you at the company? Yeah. Your mom went to pick out some clothes for you. She'll have someone send them over to you later. Do you want them sent to Jing City or Hong Kong? Hong Kong. I told my oldest sister I'll be staying in Hong Kong for a while. All right then. Just send Dad your address later, and I'll have someone bring your things over. Thanks, Dad. After saying that, I looked down and sniffed my clothes. Then I frowned in disgust. I accidentally fell asleep last night without even changing my clothes. I felt like I was starting to smell. So I said into the phone, Dad, you get back to work. I'm gonna go take a shower. However, the moment I hung up, that unknown number relentlessly forced its way through again. I furrowed my brows. I didn't even have to think to know it was definitely Shen Qingxuang. Looking at the hundreds of missed calls, I irritably pressed the answer button. On the other end, Shen Qingxuang's voice was dry and hoarse. Liu Chen, you're finally willing to answer my call. I couldn't see what kind of pathetic state she was in right now, and even if I could, I wouldn't care in the slightest. I just let out a cold scoff. Miss Shen, aren't you tired? Hundreds of missed calls. It's a miracle your phone hasn't crashed yet. She didn't answer my question. Instead, she carefully tried to please me. Where are you right now? I'll come find you. Let's talk things out face to face, okay? Her humble, pleading tone instantly reminded me of the days after that massive fire. That year, I carried her out of the burning building on my back, but my own arms suffered extensive burns, leaving them hideously scarred. I hid in my hospital room, refusing to see anyone. She used this exact same tone as she stood outside my door every day, begging me, separated by a single door. She described the graduation ceremony I had missed until she finally made me laugh, and I willingly opened the door, but I will forever remember. The moment she saw my arms wrapped in bandages, her smile instantly froze. That arrogant, untouchable campus belle actually cried. Her lips trembled, and with red eyes, she asked me, Liu Chen, why did you run in there? But I just smiled and comforted her. I couldn't just watch you die, could I? However, times have changed. That girl whose heart was once entirely mine was ultimately no longer the same. My thoughts snapped back to the present. I let out a long sigh. Shen Qingxuang, what exactly do you want to say? I mercilessly exposed her. Do you want to talk about how you were flirting with Xiao Chusheng behind my back? About how thrilling your little secret affair was? Or do you want to tell me that even though you cheated, I'm still the one you love the most? I just felt my stomach churn, so disgusted I wanted to throw up. The next second, I told her word by word. Shen Qingxuang, your apologies mean absolutely nothing to me. Hearing this, she instantly panicked. She hurriedly explained, Liu Chen, it's not like that. Nothing happened between me and Xiao Chusheng. The most we did was that one hug. There was nothing else. Please don't just give me the death penalty. Give me one more chance, okay? But I couldn't be bothered to listen to her excuses anymore and hung up the phone directly. However, the very next second, Shen Qingxuang's call came through again. Without hesitation, I blocked her number. Who knew she would actually use another number to call me? I frowned. If I hadn't promised my dad to keep my phone on, I would have turned it off completely. I just turned on airplane mode to get some absolute peace and quiet. Then I walked into the bathroom. An hour later, I went to a telecom store and got a new SIM card. Then I sent my new number to my parents and decisively deactivated my old card. As night fell, I stepped out under the fading glow of the sunset. The sea breeze was slightly chilly. I took a cab to the Pottinger Street that Yi Chen had recommended. The bar at the end of the street didn't even have a sign. If Yi Chen hadn't told me about it, who would have known this was a bar? I curled my lips into a smile and stepped inside. But as soon as I walked in, I was stunned by the sight before me. The main hall was incredibly luxurious. The white dolomite marble floors sparkled brilliantly under the crystal chandeliers. This was way too nice. Just as I was taking a moment to observe my surroundings, a beautiful woman walked up to me. "Hello, handsome. Do you have a reservation?" I gave a faint smile. "Hello? I'm looking for the person in charge of this bar." Hearing this, she froze for a second and muttered something in Cantonese under her breath. I didn't catch what she said, but immediately after, she put her smile back on. "There are several people in charge of the bar. Which one are you looking for?" I replied calmly, "Any of them, as long as they can make decisions." She looked me up and down, seeing my open and honest expression and my relaxed posture, which was completely different from the usual nervous Rex, who came looking for Hisaya. She finally concluded that I wasn't here for Sister Sia. So, as she led the way, she enthusiastically struck up a conversation. "Are you here in Hong Kong for a vacation?" I nodded, my smile carrying a hint of distance. "Yes. How long are you staying?" The beauty was calculating in her head if he was staying for a while. Maybe she could have an earth-shattering romance with this handsome guy. But I just gave a flat, two-word reply. "We'll see." Who knew she wouldn't give up? She actually pulled out her phone. "Can I get your contact info? If you need anything, you can hit me up anytime." I looked at the QR code she pulled up, calmly switched to my secondary WeChat account, and scanned it right in front of her. Finally, I smoothly switched back to my main account. Seeing this, the beauty's mouth twitched. Does he think I'm blind? But he didn't dare ask. He just kept leading me to the bar. I didn't care at all. I turned and smiled at the bartender. "I'm looking for your manager. Please." The guy knew what to do. He immediately turned around to find someone. A few minutes later, a red-haired beauty strolled over, looking completely carefree. I was sitting at the bar, casually playing with my glass. But the moment she saw me, her footsteps suddenly stopped. Her eyes went wide. What a coincidence. It's actually him. Chu Li leaned her lower back against the bar, pretending to be calm as she asked, "Hey, handsome, what do you need me for?" I couldn't be bothered with small talk and cut straight to the chase. "I'm booking all the booths by the coast." The end of this bar actually opened right up to the coastline. Sitting there, you could take in the entire coastal view. Chu Li followed my gaze and smiled charmingly. "You're being a bit bossy now. Those are the best seats in the bar." I shot her a glance, then pulled out a black card and handed it over. I smiled. "You don't want to make money?" Chu Li stared at the card in my hand, her eyes instantly curving into crescents. "Make money? Of course we want to make money." She took the card and handed it to a waiter. "How many seats do you need?" I lowered my gaze. "Everything within 10 meters. Deal." Chu Li was decisive, immediately having someone clear the tables. Soon, I was led to a seat by the floor-to-ceiling windows. Soft lighting fell on me. I turned my head to look at the ocean view outside. The sea breeze fluttered my hair. The stairs around me felt non-existent. I just sat there quietly, mapping out my plans in my head. Seeing this, someone quietly asked Chu Li, "Hey, beautiful Chu, why did you agree to his request? Our bar isn't exactly short on money." Chu Li shot him a look. Thinking of the scene where I cursed people out at the airport, her scalp went numb. She replied pointedly, "I'm afraid he'll curse me out." The guy asking the question was dumbfounded. In Hong Kong, is there actually someone who dares to curse out Miss Chu? But Chu Li didn't care about all that. She quickly rushed into a private room on the second floor. She asked mysteriously, "Guess who I just ran into downstairs?" Wan threw an apple straight at her, cursing impatiently. "Are you crazy? Always making such a fuss." Chu Li caught the apple and took a bite, continuing with her mouth full. "Hurry up and guess. You'll never guess." Wan completely ignored her, reaching out to grab another apple. Helpless, Chu Li had to lean close to Hisaya. "Sister Saya, want to guess?" Hisaya didn't even look up, coldly spitting out a single word. "Get lost." Chu Li instantly felt her heart stop. She muttered loudly, "Such a huge hottie is hanging out on the first floor. I guess he's attracting customers for the bar." But these words still failed to catch Hisaya's attention. Chu Li scoffed coldly, forcibly suppressing her urge to share, and collapsed onto the sofa to rest. Who knew that after collapsing on the sofa, she would actually fall straight asleep? It wasn't until over half an hour later that Wan patted her awake. "Let's go downstairs and eat." Chu Li groggily followed the two of them out the door. But just as they left the private room, she suddenly snapped back to her senses. She saw Hisaya standing with one hand in her pocket, her eyes fixed on the floor below. Her gaze flickered. Who knows what she was thinking? Chu Li slapped her forehead, finally remembering. "Sister Sia, I forgot to tell you. That whole area was booked by that handsome guy. The bar area where they usually ate happened to be exactly within my 10-meter radius." When Wan raised an eyebrow. "You were acting all mysterious earlier, just because of that handsome guy?" "Yeah." Chu Li smiled until her eyes were slits. "He's even more handsome today than he was yesterday." Wan glanced over there and chuckled coldly. "He is pretty handsome." Right now, a third of the guests in the hall were lining up in front of me. Even those not in line had their attention entirely on me, and I turned no one away. As long as they lined up, and as long as they had good looks and a nice figure, anyone could sit across from me and play around, win, and you get my contact info. Lose, and you take off your top and run a lap along the coast. In just the few short minutes they had been standing there, 2 more beauties ran out wearing nothing but their bras. For a moment, the entire coastline was practically filled with beauties showing off their figures. Julie exaggeratedly covered her eyes. This handsome guy really knows how to play. However, Hisaya calmly withdrew her gaze and turned to leave. Julie inexplicably felt a bit cold. She deliberately bumped into Wenwan. Do you feel like something's wrong? Wenwan dodged her in disgust. Your brain is what's wrong. Ishia never eats in the private rooms, and now even her dining spot has been sold off by Chuli. She's probably about to explode with anger. Chuli hurriedly followed after her to beg for mercy. Wenwan, don't be mad. I'll go talk it over with him and borrow a table for us. Get lost. Wenwan didn't want to deal with her at all, continuing to walk outside. But Chuli didn't care in the slightest. She went downstairs and quickly ran toward me. Handsome. She plopped down right across from me. Drinks are on the house today. How about lending us a table to eat? Hearing her words, I nodded casually. Whatever. It's just a few people eating. It doesn't affect me. Julie immediately waved at Hisha and the others. Hurry up and come over. He agreed to lend us a table. Oh my god. This is so embarrassing. Wenwan spat out in a hushed voice. The dignified owner of the bar actually has to borrow a seat from a customer to eat. Hisaya, however, seemed unaffected. She withdrew her gaze from my direction, walking over unhurriedly and sitting down. Chuli, meanwhile, leaned over the sofa, watching me play dice with great interest. Time ticked by, minute by minute. The people in front of me grew fewer and fewer, aside from occasionally losing a few times. To let them add my contact info, I was on a near-constant winning streak. Just then, the woman across from me rolled 3 2s. She looked at me with a triumphant smile. This round is for the lowest score. She didn't believe my luck could still be that good. However, I slowly lifted the dice cup. 3 1s. Seeing this, the smile on the woman's face instantly froze. The next second, she spoke up defiantly. When it comes to playing dice around here, you're not the best one. I shot her a glance, impatiently reminding her, take off your clothes first, then you can leave. You guys are just my boring pastime. You really think a reverse psychology trick will work on me? Hearing this, the woman's face instantly flushed red. Snickers echoed from the crowd around us, but she still wouldn't give up. She suddenly spoke up. Those beauties who just came out of the elevator earlier, you must have noticed them, right? I raised an eyebrow, non-committal. Those beauties had such outstanding looks and aura, it would be too hypocritical of me to say I didn't see them. Seeing my tacit agreement, the woman smiled maliciously. If the one walking in the middle claims to be second in skill here, no one would dare claim to be first. If you can even beat her, then I'll be absolutely convinced. I just let out a soft scoff, like I care if you're convinced or not. The next second, I spoke directly. Next. The woman was instantly choked by my words, wanting to say something more, but the next beauty directly pulled her away and sat down in front of me. A few more rounds passed. Bored out of my mind, I tossed the dice onto the table. I'm done playing. This is so boring, but as soon as my words fell, the people lining up behind me weren't happy. Don't. We haven't played yet, but I couldn't even be bothered to spare them a glance. I stood up, ready to leave. Just then, Chuli froze. Are you leaving? She then hurriedly spoke up. Actually, that person's suggestion from earlier, you could consider it. Sister Sia is really amazing at rolling dice. My movements to leave slowed down. I then turned my gaze, my eyes landing on the woman looking down at her phone. To be honest, out of all the women I've met, she was the most pleasing to the eye. As if sensing my gaze, her movements on her phone paused. She suddenly looked up at me. Our eyes met. I silently praised in my heart. So beautiful. When she lowered her eyes, she was elegant and mysterious. But when she looked up, she was sharp and a bit rebellious. You could tell at a glance she wasn't someone to mess with. So, I generously curled my lips into a smile at her and walked toward her. The moment the music switched, I stopped right in front of her. Hisaya put down her phone, leaning back casually. Those eyes, unreadable in their emotion, just stared at me like that. The surroundings were a noisy mess, but I smiled and asked, "Want to play?" A soft chuckle escaped Hisaya's throat. A light laugh. She asked knowingly. Play what? I frowned. Dice. Obviously. I was making such a huge commotion over there. How could she not have noticed? But on second thought, she was playing on her phone just now. Maybe she really didn't notice. Thinking of this, I suddenly lost interest. I only came over because I sensed her gaze and went with the flow. Since she wasn't interested, then forget it. Thinking of this, I squeezed out an apologetic smile. Sorry to bother you. After saying that, I turned and walked away. Behind me, Hisaya looked at my retreating back, and the word play blurted out of her mouth. I heard it, but I deliberately pretended not to hear, continuing to walk forward. But Chuli didn't want to let me go. She suddenly rushed over and blocked me. Play, play, play. Handsome, my sister Saya just said she'll play. Looking at her somewhat messy red hair, I was instantly amused. I'm not playing with her. How about I play with you? Chuli froze on the spot, but the next second, an icy gaze landed on her. She immediately snapped back to reality, shaking her head frantically. I don't know how. You should just play with my sister Saya. My sister Saya is really good. She was praising her out loud, but her eyes were full of pleading. I instantly understood what she meant, so I furrowed my brows, pretending to be conflicted. But she doesn't want to play with me. How is that possible? Chu Li flatly denied it. She's just acting aloof, you know? In the corner, Wenwan quietly gave Chu Li a thumbs up. Good sister, I'll buy you a top-quality coffin. I really couldn't hold back my laughter. With smiling eyes, I turned back to look at Hisaya. I saw that she was clearly stiff with embarrassment, yet still trying hard to keep her composure, pretending nothing happened. At this, I laughed even more freely, then sat back down across from her. I shook the dice cup on the table. How do we play? Hisaya's expression had returned to normal. She leaned forward slightly. Best 2 out of 3. We'll go by your rules. Lose, and you take off your top and run a lap outside. Win, and I get your contact info. Sure, I agreed readily, but Hisaya immediately followed up. The one I want to add is your main contact info, not that burner account of yours. I didn't agree immediately. Instead, I asked her, high or low? Surprisingly, Hisaya didn't push the issue. You call it, low it is. After saying that, I gestured to her. You first. Hisaya didn't decline. She picked up the dice cup, shook it casually a couple of times, and stopped. Then, she calmly made a pleased gesture toward me. I also skillfully picked up the dice cup, similarly, shaking it just a few times before setting it down. Chu Li looked left and right, completely unable to analyze who had the upper hand. She simply made the call. How about you reveal together? I nodded, exchanged a glance with Hisaya, and we lifted our dice cups at the same time. Instantly, everyone craned their necks to look. Chu Li looked at mine first and exclaimed, 3 ones again. Your skills are pretty good. However, there was no joy on my face. My gaze was just dead set on the dice in front of Hisaya. The 3 dice were actually stacked on top of each other, with only a single red dot showing on top. I lost this round without any suspense, but I'm not a sore loser, so I directly pulled up my QR code. Scan it, but Hisaya just calmly glanced at it, then shook her head. This isn't the one I want to add. She actually saw through it at a glance. After all, I didn't even make a move to switch accounts. Being exposed on the spot, I wasn't embarrassed at all. Instead, I smiled at her openly. Then teach me how to roll dice. Looking at my eager eyes, Hisaya seemed a bit puzzled. Why are you so interested in this? I blurted out almost without thinking. Because it's cool. The air fell into a bizarre silence. The next second, Hisaya actually laughed out loud. When she laughed, it was like a spring breeze brushing against the face. She was almost too beautiful. I stared at her for a long time before barely managing to look away. Who knew that Chu Li beside us would marvel? You actually have the exact same reason, as Sister Sia did when she first learned to roll dice. Just for one word. Cool. At this, my eyes instantly sparkled. I immediately pulled up my main WeChat account. When Hisaya scanned the code, he asked, pretending to be casual, what should I put for the remark? Lu Chen, I replied. Before I could ask her, she directly sent her own name over. Hisaya. Seeing these 3 characters, my gaze paused for a moment, but quickly returned to normal. Seeing that we had added each other, Chu Li also hurriedly leaned over. I want to add you too, she immediately offered. From now on, whenever you come here, your drinks are on the house. I shook my head. I'd rather you treat me to a meal. This woman looked like she knew how to eat well. Sticking with her would definitely be the right choice. Then it's a deal. Chu Li hurriedly added me. She finally introduced herself. I'm Chu Li. Nice to meet you. I smiled at her. Chu Li was instantly dazzled, sighing with emotion. You really are the most handsome man I've ever seen. Thanks. You're very pretty too. I wasn't just being polite. Her eyes were big and round, naturally radiating sunshine and enthusiasm. She was very easy to get close to. Just then, Chu Li asked me curiously, are you traveling in Hong Kong? I thought for a moment before replying. For now, I guess so. Then how long do you plan to stay? Chu Li's personality really suited my taste. She immediately followed up with enthusiastic questions. I answered casually. About a month? Who knew she would actually press further, asking where I was staying. As soon as those words fell, Hisaya's warning voice drifted over. Ah Li. Chu Li finally realized what she was doing, and hurriedly explained to me, I'm so sorry. I just wanted to ask you out to hang out. I didn't mean anything bad by it. It's fine. I waved my hand dismissively, but of course, I wasn't going to just casually reveal where I lived. Then, I glanced at my phone. Just message me if you need anything. After saying that, I got ready to leave. Just then, Hisaya suddenly spoke up. I'll pick you up tomorrow. I raised an eyebrow. Pick me up for what? She actually asked back. Didn't you want to learn how to roll dice? So it was about that. I let out a light chuckle and waved at her directly. Wait for me to ask you out. As my words fell, I strode away without looking back. After I had walked far away, Wenwan finally spat out a sentence. This handsome guy is pretty wild. Immediately after, she looked at the thoughtful Hisaya. Are you interested? Hisaya rubbed her temples, her voice full of exhaustion. He's not interested in me. Wenwan didn't believe it, instead glancing at Chu Li. It looks like he's much warmer to Chu Li than he is to you. Chu Li was scrolling through my WeChat moments. Hearing this, her eyes went wide. How is that possible? But she thought about it, and actually started laughing smugly. But it does seem that way. Get lost. Hisaya couldn't stand her gloating look, and lightly kicked her. Chu Li didn't react to it. Then, suddenly shoved her phone screen in front of Hisia's face. Look, he just broke up 2 days ago. No way. There's actually a scumbag woman like that. Wenwan also leaned over to look. When she saw the contents of my moments, she also fell into a rare silence. There really is someone that blind. Chu Li frowned. So he came to Hong Kong to heal his broken heart? The next second, Chu Li suddenly got excited. She stared intently at Hisia. Swoop in while he's vulnerable. Sister Sia. Hisia frowned at her. Was I being that obvious just now? Not obvious at all. Wenwan patted her shoulder. It's just that from the very first moment you saw him yesterday, you haven't been able to take your eyes off him. And, Chu Li added with a smile, yesterday at the airport, you said he didn't need any help, but you secretly contacted someone to make things easier for him. Looking at the two people winking and making faces in front of her, Hisia shook her head helplessly, actually not denying it. She knew that her feelings for me were definitely not as simple as just ordinary friends. That uncontrollable heartbeat, the rising heat, were all reminding her that this was an experience she had never had before. She murmured my name in her heart, her earlobes slowly turning red. Don't go bothering him. Her voice was a bit hoarse, but couldn't hide her satisfied good mood. Of course, I didn't care at all about what Chu Li and the others were thinking. As soon as I left the bar, I felt something was off. It felt like several pairs of eyes were watching me from the shadows. But before I could do anything, those gazes completely vanished. I felt uneasy, so I deliberately circled the area a few times. Only after confirming that no one was really following me did I take a cab back to the hotel. Just as I finished washing up, a message from my good bro Gu Xiao popped up. Brother Chen, are you done busy? I replied with an yeah. He immediately sent a long string of texts. On the campus network, all the videos and photos of Shen Qing Shuang and Xiao Chuxing are completely gone. You probably got someone to delete them. Not only that, Gu Xiao sent another screenshot. Shen Qing Shuang even posted a statement, saying it was just a misunderstanding, and that our relationship is very stable. She claims you guys never broke up at all. A lot of people actually believed it. I clicked on the screenshot. The content was self-righteous, describing our relationship as stronger than gold. I just scoffed in anger. I immediately opened the campus network. I didn't even have to search for it. Shen Qing post was pinned right at the top, so I directly typed a line in the comments section. I am currently single. The claim that Shen Qing and I have a stable relationship is pure rumor. Also, regarding the video of them hugging in the rain, I was the one who leaked it, wishing the two of you a lifetime locked together. But that wasn't the end of it. I directly copied the text and posted it again on my own profile, even tagging Shen Qing and Xiao Chuxing. After doing all this, I felt completely refreshed. I turned off my phone and went to sleep. As for Shen Qing, she was probably going crazy with anger. She sent me a bunch of messages, but I didn't read a single one. Lu Chen, where the hell are you? Did you really have to be so ruthless? For the sake of all the years we've been together, just give me a chance to explain. Okay? She even said, Xiao Chuxing was just a tool to make you jealous. I only love you. Please don't be so heartless and leave me, okay? But ever since I dropped that bombshell, I completely ignored all the messages from over there. I haven't paid any attention to it since. My past few days in Hong Kong have been absolutely wonderful. I'd wake up and take a stroll through the streets, feeling completely relaxed. But right then, an unexpected person suddenly sent me a message. It was actually Chu Li, whom I'd only met once. She asked if I wanted to hang out, saying she was hosting a gathering at a manor with great scenery. I originally wanted to decline, but her next words changed my mind. Come on, it's just some easygoing people from our circle. They definitely won't ruin your mood. Since she put it that way, I had no choice but to reply with an okay, so I just sent her my location, and we agreed she'd pick me up in an hour. Not long after, Chu Li sent me a photo. I'm downstairs. I didn't waste any time. I went downstairs, hurried over to the car, and was about to get in. To my surprise, Chu Li stepped out and opened the rear door for me. A certain VIP has claimed the front seat, so you'll have to make do. I was just wondering which VIP had that kind of pull, but as I was about to get in, I saw a slender, well-defined hand reach out from inside. Following the hand upward, I froze instantly. It was actually Hisia. She looked like she already knew I was coming. There wasn't a hint of surprise in her eyes. I curled my lips into a smile. We meet again. Hisia nodded gently, her gaze surprisingly softening. Realizing she was losing her composure a bit, Hisia quickly turned her head away. But I still noticed that as she turned, the tips of her ears were red. What's going on here? Chu Li drove like she was piloting a rocket. The engine roared the whole way. I gripped my seatbelt tightly, my stomach churning violently. Right then, I felt the front seat get lightly kicked. It was Hisia. I heard her say steadily, slow down. Chu Li looked completely bewildered, but she still slowed down. She even turned her head to ask me, Lu Chen, are you scared? I shook my head helplessly. Not scared. I'm carsick. And seriously, sis, can you keep your eyes on the road? Stop turning around to look at me. Hearing this, Chu Li immediately dropped the speed to slower than a turtle. I quickly stopped her. Just drive at your normal speed. Better to get it over with quickly. I can handle it. Chu Li gave me an are you sure? Look, I nodded vigorously. Sis, can you please watch the road? Stop turning around. As a result, she slammed on the gas. Even though the car was fast, it was much steadier than before. But who knew that after only a few minutes, Hisia suddenly asked her to pull over up ahead. What for? Chu Li looked puzzled. Hisia just replied calmly, to pick something up. I was just wondering about it when the car came to a complete stop and someone on the side of the road handed over a paper bag. Hiseya took it. The next second, she actually pulled out a hot drink and handed it to me. Honey citron lemon tea. For me? I was completely stunned. She raised an eyebrow. Who else? I was instantly overwhelmed with gratitude. I took the cup and took a big gulp. As the sweet and sour warmth flowed into my stomach, I felt completely revived. I looked at her with sparkling eyes, curving into happy crescent. But before I could even swallow my mouthful of tea, Hiseya actually pulled out a box of medicine from the bag. Unopened motion sickness pills. I was completely dumbfounded. I tried hard to recall her name. Hiseya, right? I tilted my head to look at her. Are you always this thoughtful and considerate? As soon as I said that, Julie in the front seat suddenly snorted and burst out laughing. Was the joke really that funny? I scratched my head, looking at them. However, Hiseya acted like she didn't hear it. She just looked at me quietly, a faint smile playing on her lips. Julie drove a bit further, then reminded, Sister Saya, that VIP is here. Right on cue, the car stopped at a fork in the road. 2 cars were already parked there. Seeing us arrive, a young man got out of his car and jogged over. When he saw Julie, his eyes lit up. Julie, honestly, why didn't you come pick me up? I'm mad at you. Seeing his effeminate behavior, Julie immediately yelled out dramatically, Sister Sia, save me. The moment the words Sister Sia came out, the young man instantly stood at attention. When he saw the person stepping out of the car was indeed the female demon of the He family, he quickly put on a flattering smile. Sister Saya, long time no see. You've gotten even prettier lately. Hiseya just gave him a flat look and didn't say a word, but just that single glance was enough to make the young man, Luoxia, shiver. Growing up, Luoxia feared nothing in heaven or earth. He'd even spar a few rounds with his own old man, but he was terrified of Hiseya down to his very bones. If he had known Hiseya was coming to today's gathering, he definitely would have found an excuse to bail. But then he suddenly remembered, didn't they say earlier that Hiseya wasn't coming? Why did she suddenly show up today? When he saw me step out of the car, he looked at Chuli curiously. Someone I don't know? Chuli nodded. He's not from Hong Kong. Then why is he here? Luoxia made no effort to hide the displeasure in his tone. Chuli shot him a glance and explained, his personality suits my taste. He'll be coming to all our future gatherings. Luoxia crossed his arms and looked me up and down. Then he chuckled and said, suits your taste? Huh? With those looks, he suits my taste too. But are you sure it's just his personality that suits you, and not his face? Chuli laughed and scratched her head. A bit of both, a bit of both. Hopeless. Luoxia scoffed coldly, but didn't say anything more. Immediately after, he actually walked up to me on his own, and held out his hand. Hello, I'm Luoxia. I smiled and shook his hand. Hello, Lu Chen. The next second, Luoxia acted like he discovered a new continent. He suddenly shrieked, wow, you actually have dimples. He excitedly gripped my hand tighter, firing off questions like a machine gun. Is it genetic? They look so good. Even though he had quite a strong grip, I could tell he meant no harm. So I patiently explained, my mom and grandma both have them. At that, the way Luoxia looked at me completely changed. He immediately linked his arm through mine like we were old friends. So, do you have any sisters? What's with this flirtatious tone? I was just about to answer, when unexpectedly, a bone-chilling voice suddenly came from behind. What are you talking about? This voice made Luoxia, who was just bouncing off the walls, freeze instantly in place. Like a duck grabbed by the neck, he turned around with a sycophantic smile. Nothing much. But do you really care what I'm talking about? Despite saying that, Luoxia still walked over and grabbed the newcomer's hand. Let go. The woman named Chu Yu said coldly, pulling her hand right out of his grasp. Then she warned, watch your boundaries. Heh. Luoxia sneered in anger. I won't. What are you going to do about it? Hearing this, Chu Yu furrowed her brows tightly, but there was nothing she could do about him. Right then, Hiseya, standing not far away, suddenly called out, Lu Chen. I looked toward the sound, and saw her leaning against the SUV. She curled her index and middle fingers at me. Come here. I admit, this scene was pretty badass. But what's with this feeling of being called like a dog? I couldn't help but mutter under my breath. When I slowly strolled over, Hiseya suddenly asked, what were you just saying? My expression stiffened. Are her ears really that good? But I didn't even make a sound. Unexpectedly, as if seeing right through my thoughts, she curled the corners of her lips. I saw it. Lip reading. I immediately breathed a sigh of relief. Thank goodness. I quickly leaned against the car next to her, looked up at the sky, and brushed it off. I didn't say anything. If she knew what I was actually thinking, where would my pride go? Hiseya didn't press the issue. She just asked caringly, feeling any better after resting a bit. I nodded. Yeah, it's not too bad now. Hearing this, the smile on her lips deepened. The two of us just leaned against the car like that, neither saying a word. Just then, Luoxia, eyes red from being angered by Chu Yu, came running over. He even deliberately sped up as he passed in front of us, watching his little legs pumping furiously. I couldn't hold back a snort of laughter. Beside me, Hiseya's gaze fell on my face. She suddenly asked, do you like Luoxia? I raised an eyebrow and shot back. How did you figure that? Her tone was flat. With my eyes. What a sarcastic comeback. I nodded seriously. He has a good personality. You have good taste. Hiseya was amused by my demeanor. Meanwhile, my gaze landed not far away, where Chu Li was wearing a miserable expression, trying to coax Luo Xia, looking extremely reluctant. I spoke softly, because people with their kind of personality are very warm. They make you want to get close to them. These words sent Hisaya into deep thought. Would he find someone with her personality warm? The answer was obviously no. Right then, everyone had gathered, ready to head out. Hisaya suddenly asked, "I'm going to drive in a bit. Do you mind?" Of course I didn't mind. Who would refuse having such a gorgeous woman as their driver? She then explained, Luo Xia insists on riding shotgun with Chu Li, and Chu Yu wants to tag along with them. It'd be too crowded if we got in too. I nodded and followed Hisaya into another car, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Are Luo Xia and Chu Li just normal friends? I couldn't help but ask. Hearing this, Hisaya shook her head. No, she waited until I was sitting securely before. Continuing, Chu Li and Luo Xia are engaged. I was instantly dumbfounded. Then what about Chu Yu? But Luo Xia likes Chu Yu. Hisaya calmly dropped a massive bombshell. I was completely shocked. Seeing my hesitant expression, Hisaya took the initiative to reveal the truth. Chu Li just sees Luo Xia as a younger brother, and Chu Yu is Chu Li's half-sister. No wonder. It all made sense now. So does Chu Li know that Luo Xia likes Chu Yu? Of course she does. Hisaya nodded. Even though I now understood the whole situation, my mind was still reeling. Chu Li actually allowed her own fiancé to pursue her half-sister. That's way too open-minded, isn't it? If it were me, I definitely couldn't do it. The car drove on for another half hour. Seeing me staring blankly out the window, Hisaya suddenly asked, "Do you know how to drive?" I paused, then answered honestly, "I got my license, but I rarely drive." I immediately grew wary. "You're not thinking of making me drive, are you?" Hisaya didn't say anything. Instead, she just pulled the car over to the side of the road. When Chu Li's car passed by, she rolled down the window and asked, "What's wrong?" Hisaya just signaled for them to go on ahead. Once their car was far away, Hisaya pulled out the car keys, walked over to me, and dangled them. "You drive." I simply couldn't believe my ears. I blurted out, "Are you serious?" Hisaya raised an eyebrow. "Do I look like I'm joking?" I just laughed. "You really aren't afraid of death, are you? You have to understand. Even I don't trust my own driving skills." But she looked completely relaxed. "It's fine. This road doesn't have many curves. I'm here. What are you afraid of?" Hearing that, I stared at her seriously. Just when she thought I wasn't going to answer, I spat out two words with absolute certainty. "Dying." Hisaya was instantly speechless, but she just lowered her eyes and smiled, then added, "Relax. With me here, you won't die." I said out loud, "It's not that I don't trust you. I don't trust myself." But my body honestly opened the car door and hopped out. I was actually feeling pretty eager to try. After all, my family kept too tight a leash on me. After I smashed the front of the car on my very first time on the road, they never let me touch a steering wheel again. Now, I gripped the steering wheel nervously, my eyes fixed forward like I was going to my doom. Hisaya looked at my expression and finally couldn't help but laugh out loud. "Left foot brake, right foot gas. You know that, right?" I rolled my eyes at her. "I know. I'm not that stupid." Then, I shifted into first gear, and the car slowly began to inch forward. Fortunately, there weren't many cars on this road. Hisaya just sat quietly beside me, only gently grabbing the steering wheel to help me adjust. Whenever I started drifting off course, her voice was charming and laced with a smile, as if she thought my terrible driving was highly entertaining. Gradually, I was no longer satisfied with first gear speeds. I stepped on the gas and shifted up. Feeling the car steadily pick up speed, I suddenly felt a bit smug. This is pretty easy after all. Hisaya looked at the dimples by my lips and praised me generously. "Because you're very smart." I turned my head and met her deep, gentle eyes. My heart skipped a beat. The next second, I immediately looked away, pretending I hadn't noticed anything. Thanks for the compliment. Under her guidance, my driving became more and more proficient. When we came up behind another car, Hisaya would remind me to honk. I immediately did as told. She continued directing. "Left turn signal. Accelerate and pass them. Right turn signal." My hands moved swiftly, executing the maneuvers flawlessly. In an instant, we left the car behind us. I'm awesome. However, by the time we arrived, the others had already been there for over half an hour. I suddenly felt a bit embarrassed. Just as I was about to apologize, Hisaya stood right beside me and simply said two words. "Let's go." Just those two words, and the group that had been sitting around all stood up, following along without a single complaint. Seeing this, it suddenly hit me. Hisaya's status in Hong Kong was far higher than I had imagined. In the files my eldest sister gave me before, it only said the He family was not to be trifled with and told me to be careful. But now I understood. Hisaya's personal stat at all was even far above the He family itself. She was the one existence in Hong Kong that no one dared to offend. For the He family to reach their current heights, Hisaya must have played an indispensable role. Thinking this, I walked up to Chu Li and the others, smiling apologetically. "Sorry. I drove on the way here. Novice on the road. Sorry to keep you waiting." Chu Li just waved it off nonchalantly. "What are you talking about? Even if you were another half hour late, no one would mind." I knew, of course, that this was entirely out of respect for Hisaya, but right after I apologized, Luo Xia pulled me into the garden a dozen meters away. Seeing no one around, he asked secretively, "Lu Chen, can you tell me, how exactly did you conquer Sister Saya?" I looked at him in confusion. "Why do you ask?" Luo Xia stared at me intently. because you're the first guy around Sister Sia to ever receive such special treatment from her. The first? I raised an eyebrow. With a stunning face like Hisaya's, no one pursues her? Luo Xia seemed to see right through my thoughts. Surprising, right? I'm surprised too. Lu Chen, Bro Lu, Lord Lu, tell me, how on earth did you win over Sister Saya? Hearing this, my face darkened with exasperation. What kind of nonsense is this? Actually, there was one thing I didn't know, and that was, the only reason these people could be friends with Hisia was entirely due to the influence of their family elders, and they had to bend over backward just to get the chance. But today was only my second time meeting her, which made this a bit unbelievable. Furthermore, not only did she attend a gathering she originally had no intention of coming to, she even willingly acted as my chauffeur. This was a privilege even Chu Li and the others had never experienced. Conquer her? I instinctively looked over at Hisia, not far away. Her side profile was so beautiful it could make the heavens jealous. It was simply unreal. Right then, as if sensing my gaze, she looked over at me too. Our eyes met. I didn't shy away at all. Instead, I raised an eyebrow and gave her a wicked smile. Then, I turned back to Luo Xia and said, why do I have to be the one conquering her? Couldn't it be that she wants to conquer me? Luo Xia froze instantly, looking at me like I was insane. Are you serious? Seeing how serious he looked, I burst out laughing. I'm just messing with you. Right now, I have no intention of getting involved with your sister, Saya. Seeing how overly calm I was, Luo Xia immediately got anxious. You totally can. Don't worry, I'm just asking out of curiosity. I only like Chu Yue. He was so afraid I'd misunderstand that he hastily confessed who his crush was. I quickly said, I know. You don't need to be so nervous. What exactly did this woman Hisia do to terrify people this much? Luo Xia finally relaxed, but the next second, he got excited again. So, do you have any sisters? The kind with dimples? I shook my head. No biological ones, but I do have a few older cousins. Luo Xia immediately pressed. Do they have dimples? I shook my head. No dimples, but they're all very pretty, especially my cousin Lu Sichi. She's half French. Her looks are straight up vixen level. How pretty? Prettier than Sister Xia. Luo Xia's eyes went wide, staring at me full of anticipation. I thought about it carefully. It's a different kind of pretty. Luo Xia immediately got antsy. Do you have pictures? Yeah. I generously pulled out my phone. Want to see? Yes. Luo Xia leaned in close. His eyes were bulging so much they looked like they'd pop out. Right after, his gasps of amazement grew louder and louder. Oh my god, how can she be this gorgeous? She's just wearing a bit too much. And this one? Ah, those alluring curves under the white shirt. I'm dying. And this one? That seductive vibe? Slay me. I'm dead. Can a half-French mix really be this beautiful? Luo Xia's reaction was so over the top that even Chu Li in the distance stood up and dug at her ears. What on earth are Lu Chen and Luo Xia looking at? She looked at Chu Yu beside her. Wanna go check it out? Chu Yu's expression instantly turned as cold as ice. She scoffed coldly. What does it have to do with me? Chu Li immediately sneered, bumped her shoulder, and walked over. You better keep that stubborn mouth of yours for the rest of your life. But just as Chu Li walked over, she realized someone else was following her. She turned her head and met Sia's deep, dark eyes. Her scalp instantly went numb. Sister Saya, you're curious too. Saya, actually gave a mum and started walking toward us. Another alluring curve. Huh? Once again, that charming aura. It's not like Hisia doesn't have these assets herself. Could it be that I'm dressed too conservatively? And that guy Lu Chen just can't tell. As Hisia was thinking this, she had already walked right up to us. A dark shadow suddenly loomed over us. Luo Xia's finger, which was excitedly swiping through photos, trembled. The next second, a photo of a beauty in a bikini blatantly appeared on the screen. Too late. Luo Xia didn't even need to look up. The chilling glare from above was enough to make his scalp tingle. He immediately curled back his offending finger, his voice trembling and hoarse. Sister Chu Li. Seeing him scared like a shivering quail, I had no choice but to calmly say, it's nothing. Then, right in front of both of them, I exited the photo album and put my phone away. Luo Xia was instantly dumbfounded. He swore that from this moment on, I was his one and only god. Who on earth gave him the guts to lie right to Hisaya's face without even blinking? Luo Xia immediately shrank behind me in silence, treating me as his shield. Surprisingly, Hisaya actually withdrew her gaze and simply said to Luo Xia, Chu Yu is looking for you. As soon as she said that, Luo Xia looked as if he'd been granted amnesty. He scrambled to his feet and bolted. I looked up at Hisaya. You scared Luo Xia away. Who's going to chat with me now? Chu Li immediately chimed in. Sister Saya can keep you company. Sister Sia loves chatting. The iron door was pushed open from the outside. Isia strode in. A subordinate immediately handed her a pair of prepared gloves and respectfully reported, Sister Saya, we couldn't get the mastermind out of them, but everything they filmed has been wiped clean. How much did they get? Isia's eyes were half lowered, her voice indifferent yet enough to make anyone tense up. The subordinate handed over a phone It's mostly just photos of Mr. Lu's daily outings. Hisia took the phone and scrolled through it. When she saw the satisfied expression on my face after eating chicken wings in the photo, the corners of her lips curled up imperceptibly. But at the thought that these photos were taken by these people using dirty tricks, the warmth in her eyes was instantly replaced by a fierce hostility. She patiently and thoroughly deleted the photos one by one, before asking coldly, "Did you find out who's behind this?" "It's Lu Ruyen from the Lu family. When Mr. Lu went to the bar that day, she happened to be there and set her sights on him." Hisia's expression turned as dark as ice. She cut him off directly. "It has nothing to do with Lu Chen's looks." She walked toward the end of the corridor, every word dripping with ice. "She hired people to secretly photograph Lu Chen, simply because she's a piece of trash." As her voice fell, she personally interrogated the few people soaking in the water again. After making sure nothing was missed, she took off her gloves and threw them on the ground. A single drop of blood quietly slid off. Agonizing screams echoed continuously behind her, but Hisia left without even looking back. Send what they did along with the evidence over to them. Her voice was freezing, devoid of any emotion. "Also, find a time to have the old man of the Lu family come see me. If he can't discipline his own people, I'll do it for him." Under the quiet night, dark currents surged. Meanwhile, I was wrapped in my blanket, sleeping like the dead, completely oblivious to all of this. It wasn't until the next day, hearing my phone ringing like crazy, that I was forced to wake up. I squinted and fumbled around for a while, before finally answering the call. "Who is it?" My voice was sleepy and weak. On the other end of the line, Lu Siki's voice was full of surprise. "My little ancestor, do you know what time it is? You're still sleeping?" I let out a huge yawn. "I slept so well last night, I didn't want to get up." She chuckled at that, but then her tone turned serious. "My people in Harbor City noticed that someone has been following you these past few days." "Oh?" I replied, not taking it to heart at all, since she knew about it. She must have already taken care of it. However, the very next second, Lu Siki's words instantly woke me up. "But a couple of days ago, the people tailing you completely vanished. Even my people couldn't find them. But just now, they were all dumped at the police station." Hearing this, my eyes snapped open. "It wasn't your people?" Lu Siki's answer was absolute. "No." I immediately frowned. If it wasn't my sister, who else could it be? A few familiar faces suddenly flashed through my mind. Could it be her? Lu Siki noticed my silence, and immediately pressed. "Do you know who it is?" I didn't hide it. "It's probably Hisia and Chu Li. We had dinner together last night, but I'm not entirely sure if it was them." Hearing me say this, Lu Siki's voice grew even more solemn. "Why would they help you? Do they know you're from the Lu family of Jing City?" I thought about it, and narcissistically joked, "I don't know. Maybe Hisia is trying to woo me." After an eerie silence on the other end of the line, Lu Siki actually started to seriously consider it, and even asked a soul-piercing question. "Then why Hisia and not Chu Li?" This time, it was my turn to be silent. I couldn't exactly tell my eldest sister everything that had happened over the past 2 days. Right? That would sound too much like bragging. So I could only bite the bullet and reply, probably because Hisia is prettier. Listening to my nonsense, Lu Siki let out a deep sigh. "Hisia is the current head of the He family. She's ruthless and unpredictable. Are you sure you want to get involved with her?" Immediately after, she threw out an even more fatal question. "What about that heartless ex of yours? Have you really moved on from him?" I was instantly speechless. "Sis, I went through a breakup, not a bereavement. Do you expect me to act like a grieving widow? He betrayed me. Why should I still be sad over him?" I raised my voice, emphasizing every single word. The way I was raised won't allow me to obsess over a two-faced jerk. I have absolutely no feelings for him anymore. I left Jing City, precisely because I didn't want to give him the chance to pester and discuss me. Do you understand? I hung up on my sister cleanly and decisively. The room was instantly left with only the sound of my breathing. After a long while, I let out a breath. Should I go ask Hisia and Chu Li about this? But wouldn't it be too awkward to ask? Just as I was thinking this, my hand had already unconsciously opened Chu Li's chat window. "Chu, what are you up to?" The next second, Chu Li's message popped up. "Just woke up. What's up?" I didn't waste any time and laid my cards on the table. "I have something to ask you. Actually, these past few days, someone has been tailing me. But today, they all vanished without a trace. Did you help me take care of them?" The iron door was pushed open from the outside. Hisia strode in. A subordinate immediately handed her a pair of prepared gloves and respectfully reported, "Sister Saya, we couldn't get the mastermind out of them, but everything they filmed has been wiped clean. How much did they get?" Hisia's eyes were half lowered, her voice indifferent yet enough to make anyone tense up. The subordinate handed over a phone. "It's mostly just photos of Mr. Lu's daily outings." Hisia took the phone and scrolled through it. When she saw the satisfied expression on my face after eating chicken wings in the photo, the corners of her lips curled up imperceptibly. But at the thought that these photos were taken by these people using dirty tricks, the warmth in her eyes was instantly replaced by a fierce hostility. She patiently and thoroughly deleted the photos one by one, before asking coldly, "Did you find out who's behind this?" "It's Lu Ruyen from the Lu family. When Mr. Lu went to the bar that day, she happened to be there and set her sights on him." Hisia's expression turned as dark as ice. She cut him off directly. It has nothing to do with Lu Chen's looks. She walked toward the end of the corridor, every word dripping with ice. She hired people to secretly photograph Lu Chen, simply because she's a piece of trash. As her voice fell, she personally interrogated the few people soaking in the water again. After making sure nothing was missed, she took off her gloves and threw them on the ground. A single drop of blood quietly slid off. Agonizing screams echoed continuously behind her, but Isia left without even looking back. Then what they did along with the evidence over to them. Her voice was freezing, devoid of any emotion. Also, find a time to have the old man of the Lu family come see me. If he can't discipline his own people, I'll do it for him. Under the quiet night, dark currents surged. Meanwhile, I was wrapped in my blanket, sleeping like the dead, completely oblivious to all of this. It wasn't until the next day, hearing my phone ringing like crazy, that I was forced to wake up. I squinted and fumbled around for a while before finally answering the call. Who is it? My voice was sleepy and weak. On the other end of the line, Lu Siki's voice was full of surprise. My little ancestor, do you know what time it is? You're still sleeping? I let out a huge yawn. I slept so well last night. I didn't want to get up. He chuckled at that, but then her tone turned serious. My people in Harbor City noticed that someone has been following you these past few days. Oh? I replied, not taking it to heart at all. Since she knew about it, she must have already taken care of it. However, the very next second, Lu Siki's words instantly woke me up. But a couple of days ago, the people tailing you completely vanished. Even my people couldn't find them. But just now, they were all dumped at the police station. Hearing this, my eyes snapped open. It wasn't your people. Lu Siki's answer was absolute. No, I immediately frowned. If it wasn't my sister, who else could it be? A few familiar faces suddenly flashed through my mind. Could it be her? Lu Siki noticed my silence and immediately pressed. Do you know who it is? I didn't hide it. It's probably Hisaya and Chu Li. We had dinner together last night, but I'm not entirely sure if it was them. Hearing me say this, Lu Siqi's voice grew even more solemn. Why would they help you? Do they know you're from the Lu family of Jing City? I thought about it and narcissistically joked, I don't know. Maybe Hisaya is trying to woo me. After an eerie silence on the other end of the line, Lu Siki actually started to seriously consider it, and even asked a soul-piercing question. Then why Hisaya and not Chu Li? This time, it was my turn to be silent. I couldn't exactly tell my eldest sister everything that had happened over the past 2 days, right? That would sound too much like bragging, so I could only bite the bullet and reply, probably because Hisaya is prettier. Listening to my nonsense, Lu Siki let out a deep sigh. Hisaya is the current head of the He family. She's ruthless and unpredictable. Are you sure you want to get involved with her? Immediately after, she threw out an even more fatal question. What about that heartless ex of yours? Have you really moved on from him? I was instantly speechless. Sis, I went through a breakup, not a bereavement. Do you expect me to act like a grieving widow? He betrayed me. Why should I still be sad over him? I raised my voice, emphasizing every single word. The way I was raised won't allow me to obsess over a two-faced jerk. I have absolutely no feelings for him anymore. I left Jing City, precisely because I didn't want to give him the chance to pester and disgust me. Do you understand? I hung up on my sister cleanly and decisively. The room was instantly left with only the sound of my breathing. After a long while, I let out a breath. Should I go ask Hisaya and Chu Li about this? But wouldn't it be too awkward to ask? Just as I was thinking this, my hand had already unconsciously opened Chu Li's chat window. What are you up to? The next second, Chu Li's message popped up. Just woke up. What's up? I didn't waste any time and laid my cards on the table. I have something to ask you. Actually, these past few days, someone has been tailing me, but today they all vanished without a trace. Did you help me take care of them? Reading this, Chu Li sat up abruptly. It wasn't me, but I think it might be Sister Sia. Why don't you go ask her, Hisaya? I stared at the message and fell silent. Asking her directly wasn't out of the question, but just as I was about to send Sia a message, Chu Li called me directly. As soon as I answered, she said, sounding a bit excited, Sister Sia might be a little busy today, so she might not have time to reply to your messages. How about I just take you over to see her? I laughed out loud on the spot. If Hisaya is so busy, how could she possibly have time to see me? Chu Li immediately slapped her forehead and coughed dryly, then explained, Sister Saya is busy, but she definitely has time to see you. After saying that, she weakly added, wanna go? The hint in her words couldn't be more obvious, but I pretended not to understand, and readily agreed. Sure, then I'll trouble you to come pick me up. Goal achieved. Chu Li's voice grew excited. Great, I'm on my way now. As soon as she finished speaking, she hung up the phone. I stretched lazily and took my time washing up and changing clothes. Sure enough, just as I finished getting ready, Chu Li's car arrived downstairs. Getting into the car, she looked at my face, her eyes lighting up. You look this handsome right after waking up? The corners of my mouth curled up. Well, obviously, I am the definition of handsome. Half an hour later, the car slowly drove into a manor. The quaint gates opened to both sides. A bluestone path wide enough for 3 cars to drive side by side led straight to the end, toward that low-key yet luxurious medieval-style villa. I smelled the faint scent of sandalwood in the air, thinking to myself that a century-old family like the He family truly had an unfathomable foundation. But just as the car came to a steady stop, I saw an old man in a tang suit standing at the entrance of the villa. and beside him, a woman in her 30s was actually kneeling on the ground. I felt suspicious, but didn't plan on asking too much. Chu Li, however, took the initiative to stop and nodded at the old man, Elder Lu. The old man forced a smile, but his face was unusually pale. Little Li, here is Shai. Chu Li gave a hum of acknowledgement and led me further inside, but the moment we turned around, I noticed that the woman kneeling on the ground had a sudden change in expression. When she saw me, her face stiffening instantly, she finally knew why the He family had suddenly attacked the Lu family. It was actually because of him, but she couldn't figure out for the life of her why Sia would stick her neck out for a man she had only met once. Could it be that Chu Li had taken a fancy to him? Or rather, the one who had taken a fancy to him was Sia herself? This thought made her whole body run cold. She fiercely grabbed the hem of the old man's clothes next to her, her voice trembling. Grandpa, I think I know why Sia made a move against our family. Meanwhile, Chu Li had already brought me to the foyer of the living room. Then she whispered to me, "Wait here for a moment. I'll go see what Sister Sia is doing." After saying that, Chu Li walked into the living room alone. Who knew that as soon as she entered, she would gasp. The living room was actually filled with a bunch of big shots. Chu Li was glad she hadn't let me in. She hurriedly greeted everyone, then quickly walked over to Hsia's side and lowered her voice. "Lu Chen wants to see you, so I brought him over. He's in the foyer. Do you want to see him?" Hsia, who had been looking down at her documents, suddenly paused her movements upon hearing my name. She slowly raised her head, her gaze piercing through the living room and landing on the jade folding screen in the foyer. The next second, Hsia handed the documents directly to her assistant, her voice leaving no room for argument. "That's all for today. Dismissed." As soon as she spoke, the room full of big shots stood up one after another. Not a single person dared to linger for even a moment. Just as they were walking out one by one, and I was preparing to step aside, Hsia's figure appeared right in front of me. She stopped 2 steps away from me, suppressing her impulses, and spoke softly. "Sorry to keep you waiting." I shook my head, and braving the probing gazes around me, I directly stated my purpose. "I came because I have something to ask you." Hsia immediately made an inviting gesture. "Come in. Let's talk inside." I stepped past her and strode into the living room. Seeing Hsia actually walking behind me, Chu Li shot her a meaningful glance, then stood up with a yawn. "All right, you guys chat. I'm exhausted. I'm going back to sleep." With that, she sauntered off just like that. Hsia didn't stop her, but instead turned to look at me. "Follow me." She led me toward another door, explaining at the same time, "The living room is for meeting outsiders. I'll take you to the tea room." I walked beside her and said, "Actually, I just came to confirm a small matter. There's no need to go through all this trouble, right?" However, Hsia acted as if she hadn't heard me. Her footsteps didn't stop, and her voice was calm. "It's no trouble. I should at least properly entertain my—" She paused, enunciating every word heavily. "My distinguished guest." My heart skipped a beat. Before I could even react, I had already been led into an elegant tea room. She skillfully warmed the cups and poured the tea, her movements as smooth as flowing water. A pair of soft, delicate hands flipped gracefully among the blue and white porcelain teacups, leaving me somewhat mesmerized. I simply propped up my head and admired this pleasing sight. It wasn't until a cup of fragrant tea was pushed in front of me that I took a light sip. I couldn't help but give a thumbs up. "This is better than any tea I've ever had." Hsia smiled and refilled my cup before finally asking, "So, what did you come to see me about?" Mentioning the main topic, I immediately sat up straight. I wanted to ask, the people who were tailing me these past few days, did you take care of them? Meeting her smiling eyes, I actually felt a bit guilty. I quickly added, "I only know you and Chu Li in Harbor City." I asked Chu Li, and she said it wasn't her, so I came to ask you. Hsia let out a soft chuckle and admitted it cleanly and decisively. "That's right, it was me." She then asked in return, "Did you see the person kneeling at the door when you came in?" I nodded. "What does that have to do with me? I don't even know her. She's the one who hired people to secretly photograph you. I've already sent those guys to the police station." Hearing the words "secretly photograph," my face instantly turned ugly. Hsia immediately added, "Don't worry, they were just some everyday photos. I've wiped them all clean." Hearing this, I breathed a sigh of relief and solemnly said, "Thank you. If you ever need my help in the future, I'll definitely be there." Hsia was taken aback for a moment, then the corners of her mouth curled up slightly. "You said it yourself." As soon as she finished speaking, she checked the time and changed the subject. "Have you had lunch yet?" I shook my head. "Not yet. I just woke up an hour and a half ago." Hsia immediately stood up. "Perfect. The food at home is just ready. Let's go, Mr. Lu." Hearing this, I froze. The way her voice trailed off when she called my name, it actually carried a hint of lingering affection. I stared at her blankly. Hsia's ears instantly turned red. She turned around in a bit of a panic and walked quickly toward the dining room. I couldn't help but speak up. "Actually, you can just call me by my name, or Xiao Chen." To my surprise, Hsia suddenly stopped in her tracks. She lowered her eyes, her gaze locking onto me like a net. A moment later, a much more tender Lu Chen drifted into my ears. Hearing that, I froze again, but in my heart, I was screaming frantically, "Lu Chen, keep it together. Keep it together. Don't smile. Whatever you do, don't embarrass yourself." This woman is on a whole other level. She's practically a battle-tested, top-tier female lead. I quickly patted my numb cheeks to force my attention elsewhere and finally managed to calm down. Walking into the dining room, there were already 4 or 5 exquisite Hong Kong-style dishes on the table. This meal was absolutely incredible. The shrimp dumplings burst with juice in one bite, and the sweet and sour pork was crispy on the outside and tender on the inside. It was so good I almost bit my own tongue off. Coming to clear the table, Aunt Lee saw the mostly empty plates and praised me with a smile. "Looks like you have a good appetite today." I immediately smiled back. "Thank you, Aunt Lee. Your cooking is amazing. It's just as good as my mom's." That single sentence made Aunt Lee beam with joy. She told me that the next time I came over, I could tell Hisaya what I wanted to eat in advance. After Aunt Lee left, completely satisfied, Hisaya suddenly looked at me and then asked faintly, "Have you decided when next time will be?" I snapped my head up, completely dumbfounded. Meeting Hisaya's half-smiling expression, my heart skipped a beat. Propping up my head, I deliberately turned the tables on her. "Whether Aunt Lee gets disappointed or not doesn't depend on me. It depends on you." Then I flashed a bright, radiant smile. "If boss he invites me, I'll definitely come." Unexpectedly, Hisaya's eyes instantly darkened, and she actually pushed her luck. "Every day?" I raised an eyebrow and decisively shook my head to decline. "In your dreams." Hisaya pursed her lips, putting on the posture of a delicate little woman. I didn't dare look any longer, afraid I wouldn't be able to stop myself from doing something impulsive. So I stood up and said, "Thank you for your generous hospitality, boss he. I'm full, so I'll be heading back now." "Goodbye, boss he." I didn't expect Hisaya to immediately match my pace. While saying goodbye, she stepped right in front of me. "I'll walk you out." I glanced at her. "Aren't you busy?" She bent forward slightly, her tone carrying an indescribable hint of grievance. "I am very busy. But if I don't perform well and get rejected with I won't come next time, I'd be so embarrassed." I couldn't help but laugh out loud. "Then do your best." With that, I got in the car and drove off. Hisaya stared at the taillights for a long time before going back inside. But as soon as she walked in, she was caught red-handed by Aunt Lee, who was waiting in the living room. Aunt Lee looked at her and delivered a critical hit right off the bat. "Is that your sweetheart?" Hisaya's usually cold expression instantly softened. She nodded. "He's the man I like." Aunt Lee instantly got excited. "That's wonderful. You finally have someone by your side." But Hisaya's next sentence brought her right back to reality. "Aunt Lee, I don't even know if he likes me yet." Aunt Lee's heart full of fantasies shattered instantly. She glared at her in disdain. "You're so useless. Where did all your old boss energy go?" Hisaya sighed, her face full of helplessness. "He's only in Hong Kong for a trip. He'll be leaving before long." Aunt Lee, however, was unfazed. "Then try harder to woo him. Woo him until he decides to settle down in Hong Kong." But Hisaya shook her head. "He is free. Wherever he wants to stay is entirely up to him. Then what if he doesn't want to stay?" Aunt Lee voiced the doubt in her heart. Hisaya didn't hesitate for even a second, her eyes terrifyingly resolute. "Then wherever he is, I will go." Seeing this, Aunt Lee raised her hand and gently tapped Hisaya's head. "Silly girl. Then you better work hard to make him fall for you sooner. Otherwise, if you go looking for him, he might not even want to see you, and you'll be the one left heartbroken." "I will." Hisaya braced herself. If she hadn't known that Lu Chen had just gotten out of a relationship and was still healing, she definitely wouldn't have used this slow boiling frog method to make Lu Chen slowly accept her feelings. For the first time in her life, Hisaya felt like she had encountered the most difficult challenge. But fortunately, Lu Chen's current behavior showed that he probably didn't dislike her. The next day, I bought some snacks from outside and headed back to the hotel. But as soon as I stepped out of the elevator, I was completely dumbfounded. The door to my room was actually wide open, and several strangers were gathered around the entrance. An arrogant voice rang out from inside. "Hurry up and clean this place out. My friend is arriving soon." This is outrageous. Without my permission, they actually broke into my room. Even though I was furious, I didn't immediately rush over. Instead, I turned around and called my older sister, Lusiki. The moment it connected, I lowered my voice. "Sis, check your messages." Then I quickly typed on WeChat. "Someone broke into my hotel room. Send your people over to help ASAP." They had strength in numbers, and I wasn't stupid enough to take them on alone. After getting a confirmed reply from my sister, I hung up and turned around, ready to retreat for now. But right at that moment, a waiter actually walked out of the room and spotted me instantly. He shouted in pleasant surprise, "Mr. Liu, you're back." Crap. That single shout instantly drew the eyes of everyone inside and outside the room, dead onto me. My heart tightened. Instead of stopping, I quickened my pace. But the other party clearly had no intention of letting me leave. The next second, the men guarding the door quickly ran over and completely surrounded me. Then, the arrogant man from inside the room slowly walked out. Seeing my face, a flash of jealousy crossed his eyes. He looked me up and down and spoke with contempt. "Mainlander." I looked at him and replied calmly, "Is there a problem?" "No problem at all." The man named Yang Wei drawled slowly, "This young master needs to use this room. Take your trash and get lost, you piece of garbage." I was so angry, I actually laughed. My gaze fell on the jade bracelet on his wrist, and my disdain grew even stronger. "Then, sir, wearing the trash you speak of on your wrist, what exactly does that mean?" The smile on Yang Wei's face froze, but he quickly let out a disdainful scoff. "What are you talking about? I don't understand." "It's fine if you don't understand human speech. I can explain it to you." I slowly set down the snacks in my hand, then stared dead into his eyes, stating word by word, "That jade bracelet on your wrist is called the Star of Kings. A year ago, at an auction, it was sold for 150 million. I paused for a moment, then dropped the bombshell, and the one who bought it was a businessman from China. His surname is Liu. 150 million. When Yang Wei heard that price, the first thought that popped into his head wasn't fear, but greed. He raised his hand, stroking the jade bracelet, and instantly made a decision. "I don't know what you're talking about. This bracelet has always been mine." Then he directly ordered his bodyguards throw him and his trash out together. Receiving the order, the burly men immediately moved to grab me. I felt a wave of disgust and quietly reached for the short knife hidden in my sleeve, ready to fight to the death to stall for time. However, just as their hands were about to touch me, the elevator doors behind me opened. I snapped my head back, only to see a man in a white suit, striding out with over a dozen bodyguards. I recognized him at a glance. Yang Dianfeng, the manager of my sister's branch company in Hong Kong. I never expected our first meeting to be under these circumstances. Brother Dianfeng. Seeing my savior, I quickly waved at him. "I'm over here." Yang Dianfeng rushed to my side, and without a word, looked me up and down. Seeing that I wasn't hurt, he finally breathed a sigh of relief. I smiled at him. "Don't worry, they almost got me." He looked at me and nodded solemnly. "I'm here. There's nothing to worry about." Right then, Yang Wei's shrill voice suddenly rang out. "Yang Dianfeng, why are you here?" When he saw that Yang Dianfeng's first priority was to check on a mainlander like me, I could feel his face instantly darken. He gripped his cuffs tightly and demanded sharply, "What is your relationship with him?" Only then did Yang Dianfeng notice him. His eyes turned cold. "It's you?" Yang Wei crossed his arms, glaring at Yang Dianfeng with disdain. "So what if it's me? You're nothing but an outcast of the Yang family. Did you think your presence would change anything? I'm telling you right now, whether it's you or this mainlander, with just one word from me, you'll both have to pack up and get lost." However, Yang Dianfeng just looked at him coldly, then walked step by step until he was right in front of Yang Wei. Under the other's shocked gaze, he suddenly raised his hand. Smack! A crisp slap echoed, and Yang Wei's face was instantly knocked to the side. 5 red finger marks quickly surfaced. Yang Dianfeng's eyes were icy cold. "This slap is just the interest. Yang Wei, just wait for the Yang family to pay the price for your stupidity." Yang Wei snapped back to his senses, and instantly roared like a madman. "Yang Dianfeng, how dare you hit me? I'll kill you." But just as he lunged forward, he was firmly held back by the bodyguards Yang Dianfeng had brought. While the two were facing off, I suddenly asked, "Brother Dianfeng, could you step aside for a second?" Yang Dianfeng turned around, only to see me holding up my phone with the camera pointed right at them. Yang Wei also noticed what I was doing and instinctively raised his hand to cover the jade bracelet on his wrist. I gave him a harmless smile. "No need to cover it, handsome. I've already recorded it, and I've recorded every single one of your faces, too." After saying that, I immediately looked down and sent the video to my sister, Lu Siki, to prevent the evidence from being lost. Then I added, "The valuable things in my room aren't just limited to that. 150 million Star of Kings on your wrist. There are plenty of items of equal value in there. If even one is missing or damaged, can you afford to pay for it?" As cowardly as I was earlier, that's how ruthless I was now. I walked right past Yang Wei and into my room. The next second, my heart couldn't help but clench. It was a complete mess. My belongings were scattered all over the floor, and there were even fragments of a jade bracelet. That was imperial green glass-type jade. Fighting back the heartache, I continued to use my phone to record everything. Then, I looked coldly at Yang Wei, who was blocked at the door, and said word by word, "Yang Wei, you're finished." As I spoke, Yang Dianfeng also walked in, his face equally grim. "Lu Chen, is there a lot of damage?" I sighed, and calmly stated a number. "Quite a lot. A few 100 million. What?" Yang Dianfeng and Yang Wei were stunned at the same time. Yang Wei even shrieked, "What nonsense are you spouting? You're just a mainlander. How could you possibly carry so many valuables with you?" I couldn't even be bothered to spare him a glance and simply turned around. Under the shocked gazes of everyone present, I leisurely sat down on the sofa in the room, then calmly said, "Wait until the police arrive, then you can yell at me all you want." "What? You called the cops?" Hearing this, Yang Wei instantly blew his top and fiercely tried to barge into the room. But the next second, he was firmly blocked by Brother Dianfeng. He struggled frantically. "Yang Dianfeng, let me go." But Brother Dianfeng just warned him coldly, "You better not do anything stupid again." Yang Wei touched his burning face and suddenly sneered. "In Hong Kong, calling the cops doesn't work for just anyone." He glared at me fiercely. "Lu, even if you're a dragon, you'll have to coil up for me." I just replied faintly with a single word. This punch felt like it landed on cotton. Yang Wei was so angry his face turned green. He wanted to say something else, but I picked up my phone and walked to the side, not giving him a chance to speak at all. "Hello?" On the other end of the line, Hesia clearly breathed a sigh of relief, but in her restrained voice, I still sharply caught her unsteady breathing. "The police are already on their way. I'll be there soon, too." I lay back in the rocking chair on the balcony, the frustration in my chest dissipating quite a bit. I even had the mood to joke with her. "You care about me that much, huh?" I knew she must have gotten the news, and rushed over without stopping. "I'll accept this favor." Hesia seemed to relax as well, her voice carrying a hint of a smile. "You're my one and only VIP guest. If I don't care about you, Who else would I care about? Just me? I repeated those words, pressing further. The other end of the line fell silent for a moment. Then came her incredibly firm answer. Yes, just you. I didn't know why I asked, but I still inexplicably asked the next question. What about in the future? She didn't answer immediately, but I felt like I could hear her steady footsteps. The next second, her voice came through the receiver and struck my heart. Only with you is there a need to imagine the future. Before I could reply, she continued, Lu Chen, I'm here. I chuckled softly and strolled to the edge of the balcony, looking down at the bustling traffic below. I'll wait for you, sis. And right at that moment, Yang Wei's impatient roar came from the door. Yang Dianfeng, why the hell are you helping him so much? Seeing that brother Dianfeng was unmoved, he lowered his voice and threatened. What good does blowing this out of proportion do for you? You're helping an outsider instead of me. Aren't you afraid I'll tell Dad? Hearing the word Dad, brother Dianfeng's cold eyes flickered for a moment, but quickly returned to calm. I'm not the one calling the shots here anymore. Then who is? That mainlander? Yang Wei was on the verge of going crazy, but brother Dianfeng just glanced at him and didn't say another word. This completely suffocated Yang Wei to the point of internal injury. He took out his phone. I'm calling Dad right now. The call connected quickly. He immediately complained in a pitiful tone. Dad, my brother teamed up with a mainlander to bully me. The man on the other end didn't ask a single question and just roared. Put that bastard on the phone. Just because of one sentence from Yang Wei, he had already decided it was Yang Dianfeng's fault. Yang Wei immediately shot a smug smile at Yang Dianfeng, turned on the speaker, and handed the phone over. Dad wants to talk to you. Yang Dianfeng lowered his eyes, his fingers twitching slightly. Helplessness and grievance practically spilled from his eyes. In the moment of his hesitation, I suddenly reached out and snatched the phone away. I spoke coldly into the phone. Who are you? The man on the other end was extremely impatient. Put Yang Dianfeng on the phone. I refused bluntly. No. What are you going to do about it? The other end of the line fell silent for a moment, followed by a furious roar. What the hell do you think you are? What do I think I am? I pondered for a second, then suddenly let out a sly smile. My mom is about to become the Yang family's creditor. What do you mean? Yang Lu Yao was instantly stunned. I replied sarcastically with 2 words. Take a guess. After saying that, I didn't give him a chance to speak again, and just hung up the phone. Then I tossed the phone back to Yang Wei. Watching him scramble to catch it, I raised an eyebrow and smiled, arrogant and wicked. Right at that moment, the elevator doors opened with a time's ding. A familiar figure appeared at the entrance. Hisaya. Her burning gaze locked onto me, like a bell in an ancient temple that had been silent for 1,000 years, suddenly being struck, unable to ever be calm again. She didn't think about anything else, just followed her instincts and walked toward me step by step, until I noticed her. Sister Sia. The smile on my face instantly became a bit more well-behaved, as I waved at her. The corners of her lips immediately curled up, and she quickly walked to my side. Compared to my happiness, everyone else around was pale with shock. Boss he. Yang Dianfeng called out with a complex expression. Hisia only gave him a slight nod, and her gaze immediately returned to me. In her usually cold and fierce eyes, there was actually a shallow tenderness right now. How do you want this matter handled? I reached out and pulled her to my side, and said 4 words with absolute certainty. Pay up and apologize. But then I added, but you don't need to step in. I can handle it myself. If I let this local dragon make a move, it would be way too boring. She nodded without a second thought. Whatever you say. This scene left both Yang Dianfeng and Yang Wei completely dumbfounded. Was this still the decisive and ruthless Hisia? Yang Wei's legs were so weak he could barely stand. If he had known earlier that I had a connection with Hisia, he wouldn't have dared to touch me even if he had 10,000 times the guts. But it was too late now. Mr. Lu. He tried hard to keep his voice from trembling, and shakily took off the bracelet on his wrist, handing it to me. I'm returning the bracelet to you. Could you please let today's matter slide? I curled my lips. Letting it slide is a bit difficult. Anyone who knows me knows that I hold grudges like no other. Then, using 2 fingers, I pinched the jade bracelet with disgust, dangled it in front of him, and tossed it right back into his hands. Besides, I don't want something that's dirty. After saying that, I even took a tissue and wiped my hands. Yang Wei's face instantly went from flush red to deathly pale. He knew his dad would never offend Hisia for his sake. It wasn't long before the police arrived. I handed the video on my phone directly to the officer in charge. Illegal trespassing and causing massive property damage. Officer, we have both witnesses and material evidence. The officer in charge was startled when he saw Hisia, but seeing that she had no intention of interfering, he immediately handled it by the book. He directly ordered, Mr. Yang, please come with us, along with your men. Seeing that he was about to be taken away, Yang Wei, pale-faced, still unwillingly called his dad. After cooperating and finishing the police statement, I left with brother Dianfeng. The lawyers would handle the rest. Mr. Lu. He had just opened his mouth when I cut him off. Brother Dianfeng, just call me Xiao Chen, like my sister does. After all, my sister has praised you in front of me plenty of times, calling you a resilient and capable right-hand man. Hearing this, Yang Dianfeng was taken aback, his eyes filling with gratitude. Where do you want to stay next? I knew what he meant. A place like a hotel wasn't safe. After all, I thought for a moment and asked him directly, is the house my sister prepared for me ready? Yang Dianfeng immediately replied, It's been ready for a while. You can move in any time. Then I'll just move in there. After saying that, I turned to look at Isia. Do you have anything else to do? She answered simply, no. I'll keep you company. Yang Dianfeng knew it was time for him to leave, so he said his goodbyes and left. I watched his back and couldn't help but marvel at how handsome brother Dianfeng looked. Hisaya suddenly chimed in with an ambiguous remark. He's working for the Rongshen group now. I glanced at him sideways and nodded. I know. Seeing that I had no intention of explaining, he didn't press further. He just said, let's go. I'll help you move your things. I immediately felt playful and teased him on purpose. You're going to do it yourself. Having the great CEO, he helped me move my stuff. Isn't that a bit of a waste of your talents? He couldn't hold back a smile, reaching out to poke my forehead. Talk properly. Not only was I not mad, I pushed my luck and leaned my face right in front of his. Am I not handsome? My face was magnified in his vision. I could even see the fine peach fuzz on his skin. He instantly panicked and looked away. After a long pause, I finally heard him choke out 2 words. Very handsome. Only then did I smile in satisfaction, not forgetting to praise him. CEO, he sure has great taste. We soon arrived in Harbor City's most luxurious villa district. Prosperous views. But when I found the address brother Dianfeng gave me, a hint of surprise flashed in Hishia's eyes. I asked casually, what's wrong? I didn't expect him to say, if I told you my house is right next door, would you believe me? What a coincidence. I immediately held my hand out to him. Then please take good care of your new neighbor from now on. He grasped my fingertips, letting go after a brief touch. Please take care of me too, Mr. Liu. Even though I knew he didn't spend much time living here, things were going to be different from now on. He helped me carry my luggage into the room, then headed straight back next door. I stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows on the 2nd floor, quietly watching his back. Meanwhile, the real show at the Yang family had just begun. Yang Liuyao had pulled some strings, but the police station still refused to release his son. The only solution the lawyer could offer was for me to agree to a private settlement, but I flat out rejected their lawyer. 3 meeting requests. It wasn't until the 3rd day that I received a call from my own lawyer. Mr. Liu, President Yang wants to see you. I was in the middle of an intense 5v6 match, so I just replied, tell him to wait. I'm busy. The next second, the sound of an assassination rang out in the game. My lawyer calmly hung up the phone, smiling politely at the stiff faces of the Yang family. Please wait a moment, everyone. Mr. Liu is busy. Yang Liuyao forced a fake, strained smile. He sure is busy. Meanwhile, I was frowning at my phone screen. These teammates are absolutely unbelievable. I 1v4'd and killed all 4 of them, and they managed to get counter-killed in a 4v1. Ridiculous. I swallowed my frustration and quickly finished the game, then finally got into the car. By the time I arrived, the group in the room had long lost their patience. When I walked into the private room, Yang Liuyao finally understood why Hisio was helping me, but he stayed seated in his chair, his cloudy eyes full of contempt. Spit it out. How much money will it take for you to let my son go? He thought that since Hisio wasn't here, he didn't have to show me any respect. I just walked right past him, sat down in the seat of honor, took a slow, deliberate sip of tea, and held up one finger. 1 billion. Mr. Liu, aren't you asking for a bit too much? Yang Liuyao sneered, treating it like a complete joke. I just leaned back in my chair, crossed my arms, and asked disdainfully, are you just full of hot air? You can't even cough up 1 billion, so why are you acting like a big shot in front of me? I took the photos my lawyer handed me and slammed them down in front of him. Do you know how much the bracelet your son stole is worth? Do you know how much the jade bangle he smashed cost? 1 billion is a discount I'm giving you, purely out of respect for brother Dianfeng. Yang Liuyao hadn't taken these photos seriously before, but now, he had no choice but to pick up the appraisal certificates on the table. The more he read, the uglier his expression became. Finally, he gripped the stack of reports so hard they crumpled. Yang Liuyao suppressed his anger and argued back. There's no way you lost this many things. Ah Wei only took the jade bangle. I blinked innocently. Oh my, who says they're my things? However much I say I lost is how much I lost. You should know, all these items have entry records at the airport. Now that they're missing, naturally, I can only blame the young master Yang who broke in illegally. Of course, if Mr. Yang has proof that he didn't take them, I'll accept my bad luck. Yang Liuyao's face instantly turned a sickly pale green. He had never despised Yang Wei's stupidity more than in this moment. But 1 billion? He couldn't afford that even if he sold himself. After a few deep breaths, he finally put on a fawning smile. Why don't you tell me, Mr. Liu? How would you like to handle this matter? I looked at him thoughtfully, then suddenly changed the subject. Yang Dianfeng is also your son. Yang Liuyao's heart skipped a beat. He answered with a stiff face. That's right. I hear Mr. Liu is on good terms with him. I smiled. Very good terms. I really like brother Dianfeng. Hearing this, he breathed a sigh of relief and quickly said, since we're all family, why not do it for Dianfeng's sake and let Ah Wei go? Sure. I agreed crisply and cleanly. Even the lawyer behind me was stunned. The next second, my smile widened significantly. I tapped my fingertips on the table. For brother Dianfeng's sake, as long as you return the shares his mother left him, I'll cut the amount in half. Not only that, I'll also drop the charges and let your precious son go. How about it? Impossible. Yang Liuyao rejected it without a second thought. That's 10% of the Yang family shares. If I give them to him, wouldn't that bastard completely escape my control? Hearing this, my gaze instantly turned icy. I leaned forward, my smile not reaching my eyes. President Yang, I think you've misunderstood. I'm not negotiating with you. I'm informing you. Either settle on my terms, or Yang Wei can obediently go to prison. Of course, I smirked. I know one Yang Wei isn't enough of a bargaining chip, so how about we add all the partnerships between Rongsheng and your Yang family to the mix? This heavy blow completely knocked the wind out of Yang Liao. It took him a long time to gather his thoughts, and he asked, trembling, "What exactly do you mean by that?" I looked at him with a half-smile. "When you forced Brother Dianfeng to cooperate with the Yang family, you never thought this day would come, did you? Right now, more than half of the Yang family's projects are funded by Rongsheng. Once Rongsheng pulls its investments, all the money you've poured in will be a total waste. You probably thought about this. You just didn't believe Brother Dianfeng would do that to the Yang family. After all, it's his mother's life's work. And in your eyes, Brother Dianfeng is nothing more than a tool working for Rongsheng, right? A mere employee naturally can't represent Rongsheng, nor can he make any real waves, right?" I paused, even praising him. "Actually, you're not entirely wrong. Brother Dianfeng indeed wouldn't touch his mother's life's work, but I'm different. The Yang family has absolutely nothing to do with me. Worst case scenario, your Yang family collapses, and Rongsheng just props up someone else with the surname Yang." After saying that, under his murderous glare, I calmly drank half a cup of tea. "Who the hell are you?" Yang Luyao finally squeezed the words through his teeth. I looked at him innocently. "I told you a long time ago. I'm the Yang family's biggest creditor." As soon as I said that, Yang Luyao felt the world spin around him. He must have guessed my identity by now, but he still wanted to make one last desperate struggle. "Aren't you afraid my Yang family will drag Rongsheng down with us?" Hearing that, I burst out laughing on the spot. "Why should I be afraid? Rongsheng playing games with your Yang family is like losing a single finger at most. Do you think I'd care? Ha 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 ha. Good. Just losing a single finger." Yang Liu Yao threw his head back and laughed wildly, almost falling out of his chair. He knew Rongsheng's industries spanned the globe. Toying with his measly Yang family wouldn't take any effort at all. But his Yang family didn't dare to play. They didn't have the qualifications, and they certainly didn't have the leverage. He had lost the bet. Lost it completely and utterly. Yang Liu Yao leaned on the table and stood up, looking as if he had aged 10 years in an instant. He finally lowered his arrogant head, pleading in the tone of a defeated man. "Mr. Liu, I'll have Dianfeng sign the share transfer agreement as soon as I get back. Please, be magnanimous, and spare Ah Wei and the Yang family." I nodded, my attitude instantly shifting back to that of an innocent, naive kid. "Business is business. You still owe me compensation, and I won't accept a penny less." Yang Liu Yao nearly coughed up blood, but he could only force a smile and walk away stiffly. Watching his retreating figure, I sneered. "Old fool, did you really think Brother Dianfeng was your Yang family's dog?" With that, I took out my phone and made a call. On the other end of the line, Lu Siki's voice held no trace of surprise. "Handled it?" I asked. Then I grew suspicious. "Old lady, you care so much about Brother Dianfeng. Are you hiding something from me?" The other end of the line suddenly fell silent. Lu Siki was thinking about the first time she met Yang Dianfeng, a Chinese face, completely fearless in a classroom full of foreigners. Facing the professor's tough questions, he spoke with confidence and ease. But even someone that resilient would bawl his eyes out in the rain, looking ridiculously pathetic. Later, Lu Siki had someone bring him an umbrella, and even made an exception to hire him as her assistant. She had wanted to keep him abroad, but he insisted on going to the Harbor City branch. He climbed his way up from the bottom to the position of general manager. Years later, she received his call. He said, "Boss, long time no see," and she sincerely replied, "Congratulations." But what she didn't say out loud was, "Yang Dianfeng, long time no see, sis." After waiting a while for an answer, I called out again. Lu Siki finally snapped out of it. She cleared her throat, pretending nothing was wrong. "Yang Dianfeng used to work in my assistant department. He's basically part of the inner circle, so he deserves some special treatment." "Oh?" I dragged out the syllable on purpose. I let out an "oh," then burst out laughing. All right, I get it. I totally get it." Hearing this, she immediately rolled her eyes. "No, what exactly do you get?" I shook my head with a wicked grin. "Don't worry about what I get. Just know that I get it. This sister of mine, even though she's been in 2 relationships, she's never cared this much about anyone. You have to understand, with her status, it's always been others trying to guess her thoughts, coaxing her, and putting her on a pedestal. Being this considerate of someone else, outside of family, this is a first. As a result, the price I paid for teasing her was her getting mad and hanging up on me." I curled my lip. Can't take a joke? Muttering to myself, I was just about to leave the private room, but as soon as I reached the door, I ran into someone completely unexpected. Before I could even hide, the guy walked right up to me. "Lu Chen, it really is you." My expression instantly turned cold. "It's me. You're actually in Harbor City? No wonder Shen Qing couldn't find you anywhere." Lu Chen greeted me with familiar ease. "I'm here in Harbor City for vacation too. Why don't we hang out?" "No need." With that, I turned to leave. "I have things to do." "Come on, don't be like that." Lu Chen quickly grabbed me. "Even if you and Shen Qing had a fight, we're still friends, right?" "Friends?" I chewed on the word, then gave an ambiguous nod. "Sure." The next second, Just as he thought he had succeeded, I suddenly asked, "So, when you just leaked my location to Shen Qingxuang, was that also because we're friends?" Don't think I didn't see it. He was just typing away furiously. It only takes half a brain to know who he was texting. His lie being exposed on the spot, Lu Chen hurriedly explained, "I just wanted you two to clear up the misunderstanding." Then, he actually had the nerve to start lecturing me. Lu Chen, who in our circle is actually clean. Qingxuang kept herself pure for you for so many years. She's done more than enough. Nothing really happened between her and Xiao Chu Sheng anyway. Why play disappearing acts and make her worry? She's lost so much weight recently. There's a limit to throwing tantrums. If you really break her heart and she dumps you, the loss will outweigh the gain. Hearing this, I laughed right in his face. Are you Shen Qingxuang's dad? Speaking up for her like that. Are you hoping that when you're crippled, she'll kneel by your bed and wipe your ass for you? Why are you talking so nasty? Lu Chan's face instantly flushed red. I just rolled my eyes at him. You think what you said sounds nice? At least I'm speaking human language. You open your mouth and it's like you're farting. It stinks. I mocked his tone from earlier. Who in our circle is actually clean? I spit on that. That's your circle, not mine. Just because you guys are filthy and reek of garbage, you expect everyone else to be like you. Trash belongs in the dumpster. Stay away from my noble self. Don't even try to get close. With that, I pulled out a wet wipe, wiped the spot he had just touched, and threw the wipe right at him. See you never, Shen Qingxuang's unofficial sugar daddy. After saying that, I walked away without looking back. What the hell? Lu Chen pointed at my back, stammering for a long time, clearly furious. But when he looked down and saw Shen Qingxuang's reply, his anger subsided. He just wanted Shen Qingxuang to find me. Meanwhile, Chu Li, who had been ordered to keep an eye on me, was completely floored by my cursing skills. He directly clipped the audio from the surveillance footage, sent it to the group chat, spammed a row of thumbs-up emojis, and typed, "I gotta say, I, Chu Li, have never bowed down to anyone in my life, but I truly bow down to Lu Chen's mouth. From personal attacks to soul purification, the sheer destructive power is terrifying." Wenwan, who was quick to open the file, had a dark expression. The immersion is too strong. I feel like I'm the one being pointed at and cursed out. Chu Li laughed out loud. If Lu Chen knew about the messed up things you've done, I guarantee he'd curse you out even worse. Wenwan's face instantly darkened. If you don't speak, nobody will think you're mute. Even though she said that, Wenwan just couldn't let it go. The man she liked was the only one for her. Even if he was her brother in name, as long as she liked him, she had to have him. Even if she was condemned by everyone, they were all well aware of how Wenwan operated. But knowing it was one thing, approving of it was another. But Wenwan wouldn't listen to reason at all. Just then, someone suddenly popped up in the group chat. Luo Xia, who usually never caused a fuss, bubbled up. I didn't expect someone as outstanding as Lu Chen to be so ruthless when cursing people out. Seeing the word gentle, Chu Li laughed so hard he couldn't stand straight. You haven't even seen Lu Chen's more outrageous side yet. Chu Yu, however, sharply caught the key detail in the video. Wait, so who is Shen Qingxuang? Instantly, Chu Li felt his scalp go numb. Retract it quickly. Why the hell did you have to bring that up? Although Chu Yu didn't understand, he immediately retracted the message. However, Sia, who had just happened to open the group chat, saw the whole thing. I saw that. Instantly, a deathly silence fell over the group chat. Chu Li hurriedly tried to laugh it off. Brother Sia, I was keeping an eye on him. Lu Chen didn't suffer any grievances. Suffer grievances? Yeah, right. That old geezer, Yang Liu Yao, came out of the private room with a face as pale as a ghost, his legs shaking. It was his first time seeing Yang Liu Yao look like that. To cover up Chu Yu's mistake, Luo Xia chimed in, Yeah. With Lu Chen's personality, he doesn't seem like the type to take any crap anyway. As a result, Sia directly had added Luo Xia. You're right. My Lu Chen indeed won't let himself suffer any grievances. Unlike you. A one-hit KO. Luo Xia instantly logged off in tears to go settle the score with Chu Yu. After Isaiah killed 2 birds with 1 stone, Wenwan couldn't help but laugh out loud. Brother Sia, why tease Luo Xia? He doesn't have any bad intentions. True. Isaiah lazily tapped the screen. He really isn't like you. All your bad intentions are aimed at your own adopted brother. Wenwan wanted to slap herself. Why did I have to open my mouth and defend Luo Xia? Now look, I've dragged myself into it too. 5 people in the group chat, and 4 of them caught strays. Chu Li shivered, trying to hide, but the next second, lightning struck him anyway. Sia at Ad Chu Li. Old Master Chu recently told me he wants to send you abroad to toughen up. I thought it was a fine idea, so I agreed to keep an eye on you for him. Chu Li immediately dropped to his knees and begged for mercy. No, I was wrong, Brother Sia. I'll never do it again. Please. The toughening up abroad, Sia mentioned, meant cutting off all his bank cards and throwing him in a foreign country. Thinking about that foreign food, Chu Li's scalp went numb. I'll die, but his messages sank like stones in the ocean. Sia didn't respond at all. Chu Li sat in the surveillance room, his face dark. He wanted to slap himself. Why couldn't I just keep my hands to myself? Why did I have to send that video? Knowing full well that Sia protects Lu Chen like the apple of his eye, I still let him be discussed in the group chat. If that isn't asking for death, what is? The group chat went completely silent. Sia opened the file, listening to the name I repeatedly mentioned. His eyes swirled with dark, complex emotions. Shen Qingxuang. Hisaya softly repeated the name, his fingers tapping lightly on the desk. It sounded somewhat familiar, but what bothered him more was this person's identity. Lu Chen's ex-girlfriend. Even the word ex made him extremely displeased. But what made him even more displeased was that right now, he didn't even have the right to be jealous of this ex. He stared at my quiet chat window, like a bitter, neglected wife, and viciously poked my profile picture. You're done with your business? And you still haven't thought of me. Just as he was muttering to himself, a message suddenly popped up in the chat window. You nudged Lu Chen's smart little head. Hisaya instantly froze. He frantically tried to unsend it, but my message came through first. What's up? Now, even if nothing was up, he had to make something up. He could only bite the bullet and bring up Li Yi. I wanted to ask if you were done. Li Yi wants to treat you to dinner. I looked at the message and teased him on purpose. Just Li Yi wants to treat me? Hisaya took the bait immediately, confessing on his own. Fine. That was just an excuse. The next second, he sent an incredibly direct message. Lu Chen, I'm the one who wants to see you. This guy, even when he's flirting, he's so damn earnest about it. It's inexplicably cute. I checked the time and continued to press him. How much do you want to see me? Who knew this question would actually make him frown in deep thought? He didn't even notice his assistant, Gu Xiao, knocking on the door. He let Gu Xiao in, but immediately interrupted the work report. We'll talk about that later. Then, with an unprecedentedly serious expression, he asked a question that made Gu Xiao think the company was about to go bankrupt. If you tell a boy you like that you want to see him, he asked how much you missed him. How should I reply without sounding too cheesy? Gu Xiao, who was preparing to report on the bankruptcy plan, was left completely speechless. President He, I'm a guy. How would I know how to flirt with a guy? After saying that, he cleared his throat. It was Mr. Lu who asked you right. Hisaya was instantly at a loss for words. He shot him a death glare. Gu Xiao was amused. I never pegged you as the type to say you missed someone, President He. As a result, Hisaya flew into a flustered rage. He grabbed a folder and threw it at him. You can't say a single decent thing, can you? Help! But Gu Xiao wasn't scared at all. Instead, he caught the folder with a laugh. President He, I think Mr. Lu? I never said it was Lu Chen. Hisaya was still acting tough, but Gu Xiao calmly replied, and I never said it was Mr. Lu Chen either. At this, Hisaya's defenses completely crumbled. He could only throw his hands up in defeat. Just keep going. Gu Xiao cleared his throat and analyzed the situation seriously. In my experience, Mr. Lu is just teasing you. Just teasing? Hisaya's eyes instantly dimmed. He had thought Lu Chen was being serious. Gu Xiao didn't notice, and instead suggested, President He. The biggest taboo between lovers is constantly second-guessing each other. If you have a question, just ask him directly. It was this exact sentence that Hisaya firmly etched into his heart. Meanwhile, on my end, I waited for a long time but didn't get a reply from him. It wasn't until I got home that I saw the 4 words he sent. I miss you so much. That's it? I sat cross-legged on the sofa, unable to resist typing back. President He. You thought about it for so long, and all you give me is 4 words. I'm feeling pretty short-changed here. When Hisaya saw the word short-changed, his mind seemed to wander in the wrong direction. A moment later, he replied, I'll make it up to you. I raised an eyebrow. How was he going to make it up to me? I wondered to myself but didn't ask any further, waiting for the fish to take the bait on its own. However, right after I finished taking a shower, he called me. The moment I answered, the voice on the other end was slightly breathless and inexplicably seductive. I'm outside your door. My heart instantly skipped a beat. I grabbed my phone and ran downstairs. When I opened the door, I saw him standing there. He looked like he had rushed over straight from the company. The corners of his narrow eyes were faintly flushed red, giving his exquisite face a somewhat bewitching allure. Yet, he was wearing a crisp, tailored suit, which forcefully suppressed that bewitching vibe. I leaned against the doorframe with my arms crossed and couldn't help but let out a low whistle, making no effort to hide my admiration. Did President He just come straight from the office? Being stared at by my blatant gaze, his heart unconsciously tightened. The next second, he noticed my half-dry hair and finally realized that I had just taken a shower. He immediately stepped in front of me, blocking the incoming chilly wind. I bought some Hong Kong snacks to make up for it, he said, shaking the row of bags in his hand. So this was his compensation. I immediately leaned in to take a look, but he reached out and pressed a hand against my head. Go inside first. It's windy out here. All right then. I had no choice but to let him in. I casually closed the door behind him. I only have disposable slippers at home. You'll just have to make do. I took a pair of slippers from the cabinet, unwrapped them, and placed them by his feet. Seeing that I wasn't annoyed, the smile in his eyes deepened. He then took the initiative to bring the snacks to the dining table. But just as I was about to dig in, he stopped me. Let me do it. I propped up my chin and watched him take off his coat. I reached out to him. Give it to me. He handed me the coat, then slowly and methodically unbuttoned his cuffs, rolling his sleeves up to his forearms. I stared at the faint muscle lines on his forearms, knowing full well that he definitely worked out regularly. I hung up his coat, ran back, and sat down. By this time, he had already opened the packaging. Want to eat first? He pushed the warm egg waffles in front of me. This place is a time-honored brand. Try it. I shook my head. I'll wait until you're done so we can eat together. Hearing this, his hands moved even faster, but he still inevitably got some grease on them. I immediately handed him a wet wipe. You're not allergic to alcohol, right? He shook his head, wiped his hands clean, and sat down. Let's eat. Wait a sec. I didn't move. Instead, I asked him, do you drink? Drink? He was visibly taken aback. I just gave him a mysterious smile. Fruit wine. I brought it from Jing City. Now it was his turn to be stunned. This was the first time I had ever mentioned where I came from. He was definitely wondering in his heart if I was preparing to open up to him. But he didn't ask anything. He just nodded and said, sure. I immediately brought out a sealed jar of wine. The jar wasn't big, but I treated it like an absolute treasure. This is a mulberry wine I learned to make from an old grandma. It's super delicious. I gave him a smug look. You're in for a treat. As soon as I finished speaking, I skillfully pulled out the cork. A rich, fruity aroma instantly wafted out. Then, I poured a large, full glass for both him and myself. He looked at the glass, seeming a bit hesitant. I quickly explained, I'm not trying to get you drunk. This wine is seriously good. I used to always be strictly controlled at home. So today, I'm definitely going to drink to my heart's content. I'm just worried about you getting drunk, he confessed. It's fine. I don't get drunk easily. I promised solemnly, then took the lead and raised my glass. Cheers. I shouted that one word with heroic enthusiasm. He just clinked glasses with me affectionately, watching me eat and drink, his eyes full of warmth. About an hour passed like this. My second glass of wine was almost empty, but more than half of the snacks on the table were still left. My hand started itching again, inching toward the wine jar. However, Hisaya helplessly reached out to block me. If you drink any more, you'll get drunk. I won't. With a flushed face and eyes full of seriousness, I emphasized every word clearly. Hisaya, I won't get drunk. As soon as I said that, I forcefully grabbed the hand he had placed in front of me. I pulled hard, but it didn't budge. I stared at his hand in silence, unable to figure out why. I had clearly used all my strength, but wow, this hand is really pretty. Because he was exerting force, the veins on the back of his hand were more pronounced than usual. I kept staring, and suddenly extended my index finger, lightly tracing it along the back of his hand. Under his shocked and bewildered gaze, I began tracing the path of his veins. The pad of my finger was unbelievably warm. His heart gave a violent jolt, and his throat suddenly felt hot. Lu Chen, are you drunk? But just as he tried to pull his hand back when I wasn't paying attention, I was quick enough to grab it tightly. Don't move, I scolded softly, glaring at him impatiently. Let me feel it properly. I was so self-righteous, and spoke with such conviction. Hisaya took a deep breath, looking at me holding his hand, feeling a throbbing at his temples. He sighed helplessly, and tried to pull his hand back, only to find that it wouldn't budge at all. Stupid, I scoffed, suddenly pulling his hand right up to my cheek, then lowering my head to nuzzle against the back of his hand. I like this. Feeling his own crazy heartbeat, Hisaya silently used his other hand to move the wine glass away. It seemed that letting me play with his hand was better than me clamoring for more wine. Who knew I would suddenly command, switch hands. That one was too hot. I don't like it. Hisaya sighed helplessly once again, and had no choice but to offer his other hand. I felt it carefully, confirmed that I liked this one too, and finally smiled in satisfaction. Not bad. This one isn't hot. As soon as I said that, his barely composed face instantly flushed bright red. I understood now. His first hand had gotten hot, because he was blushing from me, rubbing it all over. Just as he was relieved that my attention was on his hand, my gaze suddenly shifted. Hisaya, I said seriously, staring at him unblinkingly. Your face is so red. You must be drunk. My pronunciation was clear, not sounding like a drunkard at all. He just slapped a hand over his forehead, smiling bitterly. Lu Chen, are you going to look at who's actually the drunk one here? Let me see. Is there really such a good thing? My eyes instantly lit up. Under his bewildered gaze, I suddenly stood up. Lu Chen, you. He looked at me in confusion. The next second, I took a big step and stood right in front of him. I grabbed his shoulders and pushed him back, then quickly leaned in close. Let me see. Before he could even react, the tip of my nose was barely a millimeter away from his. If he moved forward even a tiny bit, he would touch my nose. He instantly froze, terrified of making a huge mistake. But I, the instigator, grew bolder and bolder. My burning hot hand directly pinched his earlobe, as if I had discovered a new toy. Hisaya, you have earlobes. I curiously rubbed his earlobe. This was killing him. Hisaya's heart was pounding wildly in his chest, almost losing control. Lu Chen, he gritted his teeth, turning his head to avoid my breath, and coaxed me in a flustered tone. Stop playing around. What? I blinked. Why can't I play? It feels so good. I immediately played dumb, pretending not to hear him. Hisaya was instantly speechless. You heard me. He mercilessly exposed me. I was immediately displeased, glaring at him with feigned ferocity. Just when he thought I was going to get mad, my gaze started trailing down from the tip of his nose to his lips, inching lower and lower, as if trying to see through his shirt. Finally, my gaze locked onto a certain spot on him. Lu Chen. Hisaya was so startled by my look that he shivered, jumping up with the fastest speed of his life to stand opposite me. Don't do anything crazy. His voice was trembling, like an innocent maiden being harassed. But I looked at the panic on his face in confusion, trying to understand. What are you afraid of? He felt like he was going crazy. I clearly seemed conscious, but my actions were nothing like a sober person's. He took a deep breath and forced himself to stay calm. I'm not afraid. A poor attempt to cover it up. I rolled my eyes at him and said self-righteously, "It's not like I'm going to take advantage of you. Besides, didn't you just tell me to look? When did I?" He stopped mid-sentence, suddenly realizing he had indeed used the word look, but he definitely didn't mean looking like that. He explained helplessly, "You misheard me. That's not what I meant." I let out an "oh," then gave him a flat glance, the smile on my face instantly vanishing. Seeing me like this, his heart violently clenched again. He actually compromised. He walked up to me, bent down, and said in resignation, "Look, then," but no touching. At this moment, Isia only had one thought. He was wrong. Why try to reason with a drunk? As long as I was happy. I tilted my head, seeing him so obedient, and finally curled my lips in satisfaction, but I didn't actually look. Instead, I stretched lazily. "All right, I want to sleep now." Hearing the word sleep, Isia froze and asked the stupidest question of his life. "How do we sleep?" As soon as he said that, I was so shocked that I sobered up halfway, but I still seriously started explaining it to him. "Wash your face, brush your teeth, close your eyes, and sleep." A moment later, he followed me upstairs like a shadow. Seeing me enter my room, he had just breathed a sigh of relief when I suddenly pivoted and walked straight into the guest bedroom. "Hisaya," I called out. When he walked over, he saw me holding a brand new toothbrush, smiling at him. "For you. And this, and this." I also dug out a towel and a bath towel, shoving them into his arms one by one. Only then did I leave, completely satisfied. Hisaya stood there holding an armful of unopened toiletries, his feelings complicated. Even when I was drunk, I was still thinking about him. He suddenly felt that in this lifetime, he was probably really going to fall hard for me. "Hisaya." My drunken shout came from outside again. He hurried out, only to see me brushing my teeth, mouthful of toothpaste. "Good night." I tilted my head, blowing a bubble as I spoke. Hisaya couldn't hold back a laugh, gazing at me deeply. "Good night." A few minutes later, he stood by the bed, looking at me already fast asleep, wrapped in a blanket. After a long while, he finally turned off the light and left. But he didn't go home. Instead, he slept in the guest room next to mine. He left both doors open, terrified that a drunk like me might throw up in the middle of the night. Fortunately, I slept soundly until the next day. He left the delivered porridge and hangover soup on the table, left a message, and then went to the company. At noon, I woke up dying of thirst. I dragged myself downstairs with heavy eyelids and got some water from the kitchen. Only then did I notice the two insulated thermoses on the table. I frowned in confusion. Where did these come from? I put down my water glass and inspected them, making sure they weren't time bombs before opening the lids. Instantly, a fresh, fragrant scent of rice wafted out. I swallowed hard. I really was hungry, but I didn't pick up my chopsticks right away. Instead, I looked around. I remembered eating with Hisaya last night. And then what? As I tried hard to recall, the scenes from last night began to surface in my mind in fragments. I have this one quirk. No matter how drunk I get, the next day, as long as I try to remember even a little bit, or even without actively trying to recall, as long as I pass by the places where I acted like a fool while drunk, my brain automatically replays everything for me. So when I clearly realized exactly how I had taken advantage of Hisaya yesterday, I froze right on the spot. My wide, round eyes were filled with absolute shock. That person who took advantage of someone and acted so self-righteous about it was actually me? Holy crap. I covered my face and collapsed backward onto the sofa, screaming silently, "Just destroy me. I don't want to live anymore." My obsession with him had already reached the point where even my subconscious was making moves for me. How was I ever going to face Hisaya again? If I pretended I didn't remember anything, would he believe me? At this moment, I wished I could dig a hole right there and bury myself. But the reality was, that idea wasn't realistic at all. Just then, the doorbell rang. I drifted over to open the door, feeling like life had lost all meaning. A few seconds later, upon seeing that the person standing outside was Hisaya, my mind went completely blank, and I immediately slammed the door shut again. By the time I realized what I had just done, it was already too late. This was the textbook definition of making things worse by trying to cover them up. Through the door, I could almost hear the laughter coming from outside. I took a deep breath and resignedly opened the door again. I know I went too far last night. Just scold me. I kept my head down, looking like a coward ready to accept my punishment. But Hisaya just stared at the cowlick, sticking up from the top of my head, his smile deepening. He actually raised his hand and ruffled my hair like he was petting a puppy. As I looked up in bewilderment, he smirked and asked, "It was pretty cute, actually. Besides, how do you know I wasn't a willing participant?" Huh? Seeing that he had completely lost his bottom line to this extent, my heart instantly started feeling apprehensive. I was just about to shake off the hand on my head when I saw Hisaya's face suddenly magnify right in front of my eyes. In his deep pupils, I could clearly see my own bewildered expression. Liu Chen. Before I could dodge, he used that seductive voice of his to ask slowly, "Do you know what I wanted to do last night when you were this close to me?" For some unknown reason, my gaze involuntarily fell onto his sexy, thin lips. I pursed my lips. I didn't know what he wanted to do, but I knew exactly what I wanted to do. Seeming to sense my thoughts, a seductive chuckle reached my ears. The next second, he straightened up, pulled his hand back, and as he walked past me, he dropped a single sentence. "My thoughts were exactly the same as yours." What? Wait, no. I quickly chased after him. What thoughts did I have? What thoughts did you have? Wait, how did he know what I was just thinking? Unfortunately, Hisaya didn't answer me. His gaze landed on the table, on the untouched porridge and hangover tea. Just woke up? I had wanted to press him for an answer, but on second thought, that would make me look like I cared too much. So I just replied with a single word, yeah. Right after that, I watched as Hisaya casually walked into the kitchen, familiarly took out the tableware, and served the porridge and soup into separate bowls. I instantly felt guilty. Don't tell me you cleaned up the dining room last night too. Yeah, it was on the way. He placed the porridge on the table. Come eat. This guy was way too thorough in everything he did and considered. It gave me the illusion that he wasn't trying to court me, but rather raising a son. Seeing that he had already pulled out a chair, I walked over and sat down. I took a bite of the yam porridge before asking, "You're not eating?" He took out his phone and glanced at me. I already ate at the company cafeteria. I was just about to ask him why he came over if he had already eaten, but I caught myself halfway through. I shut my mouth just in time, but Hisaya didn't let this opportunity slip by. He said leisurely, "I came to see if our young master Lu had gotten out of bed yet." I viciously took a huge gulp of porridge, as if what I was chewing wasn't the melt-in-your-mouth yam porridge, but him in the flesh. As a result, Hisaya actually couldn't hold back a soft chuckle again. He laughed so loudly, radiating pure joy from head to toe. It really annoyed me to see him like that. I forcefully poked my spoon into the bowl. I hadn't even done anything funny. The way he was acting, it made me feel like I was his personal stimulant. I quickly finished eating, and seeing that Hisaya was about to get up and clean, I hurriedly raised a hand to stop him. I'm really not useless. I'll do it myself. What kind of host always lets their guests do the chores? So I took the thermoses and bowls into the kitchen, rolled up my sleeves, and started washing. But who knew? Hisaya had followed me in at some point, and was standing at the kitchen door, staring at me. I suddenly felt inexplicably awkward. I cleared my throat. Do you not believe I can do chores? No. Hisaya shook his head. Then why are you staring at me? I kept talking to him, but my hands didn't stop moving. Hisaya actually said, I was afraid you'd be bored, so I'm keeping you company. Is that so? I suddenly broke into a wicked grin. Since when did our president switch careers to become a professional companion? Does it pay well? I teased him at every opportunity I got, thoroughly enjoying myself. I didn't expect Hisaya to play along so well. He even cooperatively put on a thoughtful expression, waiting until I put the bowls into the sterilizer before replying, it pays, but not exceptionally well. The main thing is keeping the client happy. After saying that, he handed me a paper towel and smoothly took the thermoses from me, asking with a smile, Right, Mr. Lu? I wiped the water off my hands and walked past him arrogantly. I think your service is just so-so. Hisaya quickly caught up to me as I tried to slip away. Mr. Lu, why don't you tell me what's so-so about it? I stared at his physique for a long time, then feigned regret. Everything else is top tier. It's just that you're too reserved. I even specifically emphasized, a companion should be a bit more. You know. More what? Hisaya actually started asking for advice with genuine humility. Now I was really fired up. I motioned for her to sit down, then started counting on my fingers to teach her. First, as a companion, you need to be polite. And where does this politeness show? I leaned toward her. When you meet a devastatingly handsome customer like me, remember to call me handsome. So I narrowed my eyes, tilted my chin up, and teased her like a pet. Come on, call me handsome for me. Hisaya looked at me helplessly and flat out refused. I'm not learning this. Why? I was so disappointed. I really wanted to hear her call me handsome. Just thinking about it felt great. But Hisaya wasn't falling for it at all. Just when I thought she was going to give up, she held back a smile and suddenly leaned in close. The already small gap between us closed even further. My breath hitched, but she didn't seem to notice my nervousness at all. You like my voice? She was clearly changing the subject, but she sounded more like a bewitching siren. I froze for a second. I praised her voice. Was it because I actually liked it? It seemed like I really did. There was no point denying it. I looked her straight in the eye and admitted it openly. Yeah, I do. My answer was completely honest, without a hint of flattery. I noticed. Hisaya's pupils shrink for a split second. She quickly regained her composure, the corners of her lips curling into a playful smirk. Thank you for your affection, Mr. Lu. I raised an eyebrow on the spot. That's it? Our eyes met. I saw the smugness in her eyes. She nodded, looking like it was only natural. Just like that, I didn't get the answer I wanted. I was so annoyed. I immediately pulled away and complained. You're really unprofessional. But she actually complimented me calmly. That's why I'm waiting for you to keep teaching me. She even added, with my experience, teaching someone is definitely not a problem. Haha. I just rolled my eyes at her. Like hell she wanted to learn. She was clearly dancing on the edge of a trap, just messing with me. Seeing right through her intentions, I instantly lost the mood. I leaned back against the sofa and gave up. I'm not playing anymore. So boring. Now I was truly bored. I'd already been everywhere worth going in Hong Kong. Now I just sleep until I wake up naturally and zone out every day. I even kind of wanted to go back to Beijing. Just as I was feeling completely dead inside, Hisaya suddenly spoke up. Want to go out to sea? My eyes instantly lit up. I sat up abruptly. Out to sea? She nodded. Yeah, but I have to apply for it first. If you want to go, I'll have someone arrange it. I do. I nodded frantically. I've never been out to sea in my entire life. My previous gloominess vanished into thin air. I scooted over right next to her. When's the earliest we can go? The day after tomorrow. There's heavy rain tomorrow, so it's not suitable. Okay. I nodded eagerly. Hisia looked at me, then checked the time. Suddenly, she said, I need to head back to the company. I was a bit surprised. No lunch break, it was only 1 p.m. She explained that the company had a lounge, and she had an important meeting in the afternoon. She needed to be there to oversee it. With that, she got up to leave. I quickly followed to walk her to the door, sincerely thanking her. Thanks for the thought. President, he is so busy, yet you still came to check if I was alive. Hisia waved her hand. You're welcome. But right before she left, she actually added, it's just, next time, maybe drink a little less. She smiled helplessly, her eyes full of indulgence. A drunk Mr. Liu is really quite a handful. I immediately took the advice like a good boy. Looks like I really caused her a lot of trouble last night. I'll definitely be careful next time and not drink too much. Who knew she'd actually say, all right, you may excuse yourself now. After saying that, she waved and strode away. I was stunned on the spot. Excuse myself? I'm not some male concubine in her harem. I complained wildly in my head, but I couldn't hold back a smile. As soon as I got back to my room, I took out my phone and saw a message from Gu Xiao. Lu Chen, are you in Hong Kong right now? My heart skipped a beat. I replied with a question mark. Gu Xiao immediately sent another text. You really are there. I didn't plan on hiding it from him, so I admitted it directly. Then I asked, where did you hear that? Even though I already had an answer in mind. Sure enough, the next second, Gu Xiao's reply confirmed my suspicion. That big mouth, Lu Chen said it. Then he sent an and, followed by a voice message popping up. I tapped to listen, and Gu Xiao's furious voice came through. Lu Chen actually said you hooked up with the head of the He family in Hong Kong. He even said you're throwing your weight around, and got his good friend thrown in jail, saying it cost hundreds of millions and a ton of shares just to get him out. The ridiculous part is that some idiots actually believed it. Listening to Gu Xiao's voice, my face instantly turned cold. I could only comfort him first. Don't worry about it. Just ignore them. But I didn't expect Gu Xiao to catch something off in my words, because I didn't deny the part about hooking up with the head of the He family in Hong Kong. With trembling hands, he typed out a line. It's not true, is it? So, is the head of the He family pretty? Regarding Hisia's looks, I had no intention of hiding it from him, so I replied with 4 words. Breathtakingly out of this world. The very next second, Gu Xiao's wail came through. God, such a perfectly good cabbage is getting ruined by a pig again. I completely missed the point of his breakdown. I was still thinking about sharing Hisia's stunning beauty with him, but he actually sent. Lu Chen, block me for a bit. Let me calm down. As my die-hard fan, he couldn't immediately accept the fact that I had fallen for someone else. All right then, I replied guiltily, then skillfully blocked him. A few minutes later, I unblocked him. Calm down yet? This wasn't the first time he'd made such a request. I was already used to it. Barely. Gu Xiao sent a weak voice message. Then he got down to business. Since we all know you're in Hong Kong, Shen Qingxuang definitely knows too. If she goes looking for you, will you see her? I answered him nonchalantly. Let's see if she can even find me first. I wasn't giving her a chance with those words, because I knew perfectly well, if Shen Qingxuang really dared to come to Hong Kong, she absolutely wouldn't be able to find me, unless Hisia didn't know about my relationship with Shen Qingxuang, and therefore didn't intervene. But was that possible? Hisia was only well-behaved in front of me, but that didn't mean she wouldn't actually keep tabs on me. Holding my phone, I suddenly missed her a little, even though she had just left not long ago. Looking at the cloudless sky outside, it was hard to imagine there'd be a heavy rainstorm tomorrow. Otherwise, I could have seen her sooner. But just as I turned on the TV, the doorbell actually rang again. My heart skipped a beat. Was Hisia back? After all, she was the only one in Hong Kong who knew I lived here, but I still cautiously checked the monitor. When I saw the unfamiliar man on the screen, my brow furrowed tightly. The man was in his 20s, with a handsome face, but he looked a bit disheveled. After confirming there was nothing unusual around him, I finally opened the door. You are? The man outside froze when he saw me. He took a step back and checked the house number. Realizing he had the wrong place, he quickly apologized. Sorry, I must have the wrong address. Just then, I noticed the wound on his knee seeping blood, with dirt and sand stuck to it. He lowered his head and was about to leave. Driven by some inexplicable impulse, I asked, do you need help? He paused. Even though he clearly needed it, he still shook his head. I'm fine. The person I'm looking for should live right next door. It sounded like he was answering me, but also like he was comforting himself. I leaned against the doorframe and asked out of the blue, is the person you're looking for surnamed He? You know her. Hearing this, he instantly looked up in surprise. Seeing his expression, I knew I hadn't guessed wrong. This guy really was here for Hisia. Her house and mine were on the same side, with the exact same layout. It was normal to get the wrong door. I originally didn't want to meddle, but the wound on his knee was too glaring. I hesitated for a moment, then asked, who told you to come looking for her here? Hisia rarely stayed here, and her acquaintances shouldn't be coming here to find her. Besides, didn't he contact her before coming? He seemed surprised by my questions, but answered honestly, I went to her company, and her secretary said she was here, so I came over. I nodded. Looking at his pathetic injured state, I told him straight up, you're too late. She already left. Zhuo Ran was instantly stunned, followed by a wave of anxiety. His panicked voice rang out. Where did she go? I flatly refused to answer. No comment. I wasn't about to expose Hisia's whereabouts. Giving him a heads up this far was already out of solidarity as a fellow guy. However, as soon as I spoke, The man's eyes instantly turned red. What was worse, he seemed to not want to cry in front of a stranger, so he actually tilted his head back and forced his tears down. "I'm sorry," Zuo Ran choked out. "Sorry to bother you." With that, he bowed to me, then limped away, ready to leave. I watched his retreating back, feeling a wave of exasperation. Wait, why don't you come in and treat that wound first? With the way he was moving around, his platelets would die of exhaustion before it ever healed. I finally understood why a minor scrape wouldn't stop bleeding. Zuo Ran whipped his head around, his misty eyes staring at me pitifully. "Can I?" I nodded, stepping aside. "Yeah, come on in." But after getting my confirmation, he actually froze again. He bit his lip, hesitating for a long time before saying, "But if you help me, it might bring you trouble." I was honestly getting a bit tired. I shot back. "If I said I'm not afraid of trouble, would you believe me?" Who knew that after hearing this, the tears in his eyes would vanish completely in an instant? Then, he looked at me with eyes full of trust and admiration. "I believe you." Followed immediately by a crisp, "Thank you." Suddenly gaining a fanboy, I stepped aside and gestured, "Come in." "Okay." He finally agreed and limped into the house. But when he reached the entryway, he looked at me expectantly again. "Do you have slippers?" "I'm a bit dirty." Turns out he had slid down the hillside on his knees. His lower half was covered in blood and mud. I grabbed a spare pair of slippers from the shoe cabinet for him. "Wear these." As he changed his shoes, he introduced himself. "I'm Zuo Ran. I'm 24 this year." Why was he reporting his age? I muttered in my head, but my mouth honestly replied, "Lu Chen, 22. You're younger than me." He perked up and looked at me. "Then can I call you little bro?" Little bro Lu Chen. I shivered and quickly shook my head. "I'll pass." "All right then." Although he was disappointed, he didn't force it. After changing his shoes, he stared at me with eyes full of expectation. "All right, I get it. Second room on the right upstairs is yours. Go take a shower first. Change your clothes and come down. I'll treat your wound." I took him to the room, found all the toiletries for him, and reminded him, "Don't wash the wound for too long. Make it quick." "Okay, thank you." He was practically moved to tears. However, little did he know, the kind-hearted little bro Lu Chen in his heart had already sold him out. I took out my phone and sent a message straight to Hesia. "A guy named Zuo Ran came looking for you just now. He had a knee injury and looked pretty pitiful, so I let him stay." I knew she might be busy, so I didn't think much of it after sending. By the time I received Hesia's reply, the man named Zuo Ran had already fallen asleep on the sofa. I also got Hesia's text, "Just finished my meeting." Immediately after, a second message popped up. "Is Zuo Ran still with you? Has anyone come looking for him?" I was sitting on the rug binge-watching a show. I glanced at Zuo Ran, who was frowning even in his sleep, and replied, "I don't quite get what you mean." The next second, Hesia's reply made my heart jolt. Zuo Ran probably escaped from the Zuo family. As for why he escaped, I'm not entirely sure yet. I'll let you know once I figure it out. My attention, however, was dead set on the word escaped. Thinking back to his disheveled state earlier, if it was because he was escaping, then everything made sense. But could the Zuo family Hesia mentioned be the same Zuo family Wen Wan talked about? As I was thinking, I caught a glimpse out of the corner of my eye. Zuo Ran's head suddenly slipped. I instinctively reached out and gently caught it, but I didn't expect that this touch would jolt him awake. The next second, he saw my hand supporting his head, and the panic in his eyes finally faded. I calmly pulled my hand back. "Go back to the room and sleep." Zuo Ran frowned. "What about you?" I pointed at the TV. "I'm still watching my show." Who knew he'd immediately scoot over next to me? He said weakly, "I can't sleep alone. I'll stay here with you." Yeah, right. It wasn't that he couldn't sleep. He was clearly afraid Wen Wan would come looking for him and hurt me in the process. I raised an eyebrow. Seeing the exhaustion in his eyes, I didn't expose him. So I got up, made him a cup of honey water, and went back to watching TV. As a result, he really couldn't sleep now. Holding his cup, he slid down on his butt to sit next to me. As if casually bringing it up, he said, "I heard Wen Wan say that Sister Saya recently has been getting really close to a very handsome guy." My eyes flickered. The Zuo family really was Wen Wan's Zuo family. Seeing that I didn't respond, he took a sip of water and asked tentatively, "I assume you're that guy?" His eyes suddenly dimmed again, seemingly realizing that he'd have to return to the Zuo family soon and wouldn't be able to hang out with me anymore. I watched his mood swing wildly within seconds. The teasing words I had prepared got stuck in my throat, afraid I might accidentally make him cry. I rubbed my temples. I could only say, "I don't know if I'm that guy, but it's true that I'm handsome." Zuo Ran, who had red eyes just a second ago, burst into laughter. "Lu Chen, you're so narcissistic." But then he immediately agreed seriously. "Though, you really are the most handsome person I've ever met." I smiled and accepted it. "Thanks." Right after, he suddenly lowered his voice mysteriously. "Do you want to hear some gossip about Sister Saya?" "Gossip? About Ishai? Who wouldn't want to hear that?" Zuo Ran thought for a moment before continuing, keeping his voice low. "Sister Sia hasn't dated anyone up until now, not even once." I was shocked. With a face like that, Sia didn't seem like someone with zero desires. He nodded affirmatively, then dropped an even bigger bombshell. "Before, some people in our circle even suspected she liked women, and they even found a really gorgeous beauty to be her girlfriend." Huh? I was stunned, but my eyes burned with even more curiosity. "And then, what happened next?" He quickly continued. I don't know the exact details. I just know that the girl didn't even get to see Sister Sia before she was kicked out. As for the family that sent her, Sister Sia cut off a lot of their business, pushing them straight to the brink of bankruptcy. I thought there'd be some spicy gossip, but it was just this. Still, that was definitely something Sia would do. Seeing my disappointment, Zuo Ran looked left and right and whispered, "Do you know what everyone was saying after that? What the rumors were?" I raised an eyebrow. "What?" He coughed and dropped a massive bombshell. "They said Sister Sia doesn't know how to." Think about it. The almighty head of the He family in Hong Kong actually doesn't even know how to do times that. How embarrassing would that be? So they figured, to save face, Sister Sia shuts out both men and women, just because she's afraid people will find out she doesn't know how. She doesn't know how. My eyes widened. Like hell, she doesn't know how. He thought I didn't understand either, and actually started explaining it to me. It means she doesn't know how to have deep biological interaction. You get it now, right? I was dumbfounded. Is this kind of explosive gossip something you can just casually blab about? I quickly made a shushing gesture at Zuo Ran, my heart pounding. Does Sia know about this? Who knew Zuo Ran would shake his head, looking absolutely certain? Not sure, but no one dares to court death in front of her. Hearing that, I finally breathed a sigh of relief. Looks like this kid isn't completely stupid, so I pinched his cheek and warned him solemnly. Then you better remember, don't ever bring this up in front of your Sister Sia. Zuo Ran immediately patted his chest and promised, "Don't worry. I'm only telling you this." I didn't expect that just because of this little gossip, our relationship would instantly grow much closer. But right at that moment, as soon as he stood up, he hissed in pain. He pulled his knee injury again. My heart tightened. "Are you okay?" I pulled it when I moved. He caught his breath and pointed in a direction. "Lu Chen, I'm going to the bathroom." I nodded, getting ready to fetch him some ice. Otherwise, letting him suffer like this wasn't a solution. However, just as I stood up, my footsteps suddenly halted. I stared intently at the direction he was walking, my brows furrowed tightly. The bathroom is on the right. He was clearly walking towards the front door. Sure enough, looking like he'd been caught red-handed, he awkwardly twitched his lips and stammered. I went the wrong way. With that, he limped his way toward the bathroom. Watching him act like this, if I still couldn't tell he was trying to sneak away, then I'd be a complete idiot. Once he entered the bathroom, I went to the kitchen to wrap up some ice. When I came out, he happened to be coming out too. I handed him the ice pack, thought for a moment, and decided to give him some reassurance. "Don't worry." I stared right into his eyes. "If you don't want to leave, no one can take you away from here." As soon as I said that, Zuo Ran completely froze. He stared at me blankly, as if my words had awakened some dusty memory of his. It turned out Sia had said something similar to him before. The year he graduated from high school, the Zuo family wanted to send him abroad. He desperately escaped and begged Sia to help him. At the time, the Zuo family's people were guarding right outside the He family's gates, and Sia only had someone pass along one sentence. "Since I let you into the He family, then other than yourself, no one dares to make you leave." Just that one sentence allowed him to stay safely in the He family for 3 days. He waited until Wenwan arrived, and also waited until he got his freedom. But now, hearing these reassuring words again, Zuo Ran's face was filled with complex emotions. He wiped his face hard, as if making up his mind. "Lu Chen, forget what I said about Sister Sia not working out. I think she's incredibly loyal. She's practically my goddess." I fell completely silent. My mind went totally blank. Just as I was figuring out how to respond to this 180-degree turn, a frantic ringing of the doorbell suddenly echoed through the room. Instantly, Zuo Ran's face drained of all color. He gripped the ice pack tightly with both hands, wanting to run but not knowing where to hide. I noticed his panic and the blood seeping through the gauze on his knee again. I pressed down on his shoulder and reassured him, "Just sit and ice it for now. Your knee is bleeding again." But Zuo Ran couldn't sit still at all. His voice was trembling. "Lu Chen, it might be Wenwan looking for me." He lowered his eyes guiltily. I snuck out. "Taking me in is going to cause you trouble." I looked at his panicked state and just calmly shook my head. "It won't. Sit down." This time, Zuo Ran surprisingly didn't panic. He listened to me and obediently sat down, though his red-rimmed eyes followed my every move. The moment I opened the door, a familiar voice rang out. "Mr. Lu." Zuo Ran stiffened completely, his face left with nothing but the despair of inevitable doom. It was Wenwan. I blocked the doorway, cutting off her probing gaze. I cut straight to the chase. Looking for Zuo Ran? Since she managed to find this place, it meant she already had a grip on his whereabouts. There was no point in hiding it. Yes, Wenwan was clearly a bit surprised by my bluntness, but immediately after, a gentle smile surfaced on her face. "Zuo Ran is my fiancé. I'm taking him back with me right now." "Fiancé?" I raised an eyebrow and abruptly turned around, looking straight at Zuo Ran inside the house. "Is that so?" The sunlight outside was blinding, casting a glow on the side of my face. I could feel Zuo Ran's burning gaze. He was staring intently at me. I knew exactly what he was thinking. As long as he said no, I would help him. But did he have the guts? His grip on the ice pack tightened, his eyes darting frantically between me and Wenwan at the door. The smile on Wenwan's face didn't reach her eyes. That smile sent chills down Zuo Ran's spine. He knew all too well, the gentler she smiled in public, the more terrifying her wrath would be behind closed doors. He would be locked up, isolated from the world, living as a monitored puppet. Wenwan spoke again, her tone as gentle as if coaxing a pouting lover. Ran, stop throwing a tantrum. Let's go home. Almost on instinct, upon hearing those words, Ran actually began to stand up slowly. Even though the wound on his knee made him wince in pain, his feet felt like they were filled with lead, unable to take a single step. Seeing him frozen in place, Wenwan's tone instantly darkened. Her voice grew heavier. Ran, be a good boy. Throughout all this, I didn't say a word. I just quietly watched Ran. I knew he was waiting for me. He was waiting to make his own decision. Finally, he met my encouraging gaze, and his eyes instantly became incredibly resolute. No. Ran suddenly spoke up, his voice not loud, but firm and unwavering. He looked at Wenwan, yet it also felt like he was looking at me. I am not Wenwan's fiancé. I wasn't before, and I absolutely never will be. Hearing this answer, I smiled. The very next second, I shifted my body to completely block the doorway again, cutting off Wenwan's dark, oppressive stare. My voice carried a hint of amusement. Miss Wen, don't be so fierce. You're scaring my guest, Mr. Liu. Wenwan's patience was completely exhausted. I know Sister Sia thinks highly of you, but it's not your place to meddle in my affairs. I let out a light chuckle and calmly extended my right hand. Perhaps there's something you aren't aware of. I paused, enunciating every single word, my voice crystal clear. Let's get properly acquainted. Rongsheng Group, Lu Chen. A pleasure to meet you. The moment the words Rongsheng Group dropped, Wenwan's pupils violently contracted. I wasn't in a rush though. I just looked at her with a faint smile, waiting for her reaction. Sure enough, she stared dead at my outstretched hand without moving. What is your relationship with Rex? I calmly withdrew my hand, not feeling awkward in the slightest. Instead, I smiled with a hint of wickedness. If you're asking on a corporate level, I dragged out my words, admiring her increasingly ugly expression. Then the shares of Rongsheng I hold are equal to Rex's. If you're asking on a bloodline level, I looked at her face, twisted in shock, and my smile deepened. Rex is my older sister. As for the cousin part, hey, our bond as siblings is deeper than blood. At this, Wenwan had no choice but to reevaluate me. She glared at me and asked, does Sister Sia know? I could tell. She was starting to doubt my motives for coming to Hong Kong. However, I just shrugged my shoulders, smiling enigmatically. Perhaps. Wenwan didn't say another word, but her gaze suddenly shot past me, locking dead onto Ran inside the room. The flickering light illuminated a determination in Ran's eyes that had never been there before. It also highlighted the pain and resentment on Wenwan's face, the agony of striving for years and still not getting what she wanted. For some reason, it looked as if she had been viciously stabbed in the heart. She actually took 2 slow steps back. Then she forced out a smile uglier than crying. Since Mr. Liu insists on keeping my fiancé as a guest, I won't intrude any further. I just hope Mr. Liu takes good care of my family. I immediately fired back. Of course. We're already very good friends now. My words were like a knife plunging straight into Wenwan's heart. She instantly understood that my taking care of Ran had absolutely nothing to do with her. Wenwan's heart completely sank to the bottom. He knew very well he couldn't afford to offend me. This time, he was destined to return in defeat. After he left in a sorry state, sure enough, he dragged his injured leg and limped over to my side. His face was written all over with shock, astonishment, and confusion. He just left like that? I gave a calm, yeah. But the next second, I immediately frowned and pointed at his knee. I told you to sit still. Look, it's bleeding again. Ran looked dumbfounded and quickly scooted back. He looked completely dazed. He was probably having a storm of the century in his brain right now, unable to figure out how that big shot, even Sister Sia had to fear, could be my brother. Wenwan, who had just left, hurriedly dialed Sia's number. The moment the call connected, he immediately demanded, Lu Chen is the mysterious eldest young master of the Vincent family. Did you know about this? But on the other end of the line came Sia's careless chuckle. Looks like you didn't gain any advantage over Lu Chen. Sia. Wenwan was somewhat furious. Such a dangerous person. Are you just going to do nothing while he's in Hong Kong? Who knew Sia would just laugh indifferently, no matter what his identity is? In my eyes, he's just Lu Chen. Sia even said something that almost made Wenwan choke on his own breath. Even if he really came for the He family's core, the secrets. If he wants them, I'll just give them to him. Wenwan completely lost his mind. He demanded unwillingly, aren't you afraid he'll be a threat to the He family? But Sia merely spun her pen, looking at the sunset outside the window, and sighed softly. I'm only afraid it might rain the day after tomorrow. After all, this young Master Lu promised to accompany me out to sea. If it rains, and Lu Chen gets mad, what am I going to do? Wenwan was in complete despair. He knew that as long as I intervened, Sia would absolutely not help her. The next second, she changed her tune, asking into the phone, Sister Sia, I heard you're going out to sea the day after tomorrow. Yeah. She quickly followed up. You want to come too? Wenwan immediately pressed. Can I? You can. Sure. Sia's voice sounded very casual, but I can't guarantee Lu Chen will bring Ran along. Hearing this, Wenwan started playing the emotional card. Sister Sia, for the sake of us growing up together, can't you just help me out? However, Sia mercilessly shot back. Do you think Lu Chen is the kind of person who listens to my advice? Besides, I warned you about Ran a long time ago. I told you not to take things too far. But what did you do? You practically put him under house arrest, ending up with this result now. I can only say you brought this upon yourself. Hiseya even mentioned that if Chu-Li hadn't coincidentally run into him last time, Wen-Wan would be guarding a corpse right now. But even so, Wen-Wan still didn't know how to hold back in the slightest. I know what I did was wrong, but I really can't lose Ran. Wen-Wan's voice carried a sob. With red eyes, she pleaded, Sister Saya, you have someone you like now. You should be able to understand how I feel. If one day Lu Chen leaves you, or falls for someone else, could you just calmly watch him walk away? This question made Isaya on the other end fall instantly silent. Of course she couldn't. If that day really came, it would definitely be because she hadn't done enough herself. Thinking of this, Hiseya decisively hung up on Wen-Wan. The next second, my phone rang. I had just finished washing fruit and didn't have my phone on me. It rang once and stopped. 2 minutes later, the call came again. I looked at the caller ID and felt a surge of smugness. I deliberately waited 2 seconds before answering. As a result, from the other end of the line came Hiseya's inexplicably sooner. Hello? I glanced at my phone with a face full of suspicion, making sure I hadn't answered the wrong call, before asking, in such a good mood? Your voice is practically floating to the heavens. Hiseya cleared her throat. It's all right, I explained. I was just washing fruit, and then clicked open the message she had sent. But the more I read, the wider my pupils dilated. I shot a shocked glance at Zuo Ran beside me. Hang out in the living room for a bit. I'm going upstairs to make a call. By the time I frantically ran upstairs, I immediately interrogated Hiseya before I could even catch my breath. Zuo Ran is Wen-Wan's adopted brother? Hearing my slightly panting voice, Hiseya actually had the mood to laugh. Couldn't you run a little slower? How could I possibly slow down? I threw myself onto the rocking chair, catching my breath, while frowning and asking the question I cared about most. Wen-Wan wanting to be with Zuo Ran. Is it out of pure affection? Or does she have an ulterior motive? I was absolutely certain. If it was just pure affection, with Zuo Ran's personality, he definitely wouldn't have put up such fierce resistance. The message Hiseya sent was clearly just one sentence. Zuo Ran, dissatisfied with the engagement ceremony with Wen-Wan, fled from the Wen family. Yet, relying on my astonishing intuition, I instantly guessed that Wen-Wan's motives were far from pure. Thinking about the tangled mess involved, Hiseya also felt a headache coming on. She sorted out the timeline a bit, before finally starting to explain it to me. On the surface, Zuo Ran is an orphan adopted by the Wen family, but in reality, he is also the son of Wen-Wan's mother's first love. What? My worldview was shattered once again. Hiseya didn't seem surprised by my reaction. She just calmly continued. Back then, Zuo Ran's father and Wen-Wan's mother, due to their families' mismatched social statuses, were forced to break up. Afterward, Mother Wen married her current husband, while Zuo Ran's father, disheartened and disillusioned, married a girl introduced by a colleague, who became Zuo Ran's mother. What a disheartened and disillusioned excuse. I couldn't help but sneer. A guy who couldn't even clean up his own feelings. What right did he have to ruin someone else's life? Hiseya heard the anger in my voice, and actually curled her lips in a silent smile, even nodding in agreement. I think so too. Finding a kindred spirit made my mood improve a bit. I crossed my legs and issued a command. Continue. All right. Hiseya responded indulgently, and then, with her melodious voice, she narrated the past event that had shocked all of Hong Kong. Wen-Wan's parents had Wen-Wan in their first year of marriage, and Zuo Ran was born a year later. But compared to Wen-Wan, who was born with a silver spoon, Zuo Ran's background was far too tragic. At this point, even Hiseya's tone carried a hint of lament. When Zuo Ran was 3, his mother passed away from illness. The year he graduated from middle school, his father fell to his death at a construction site. Later, somehow this news reached the ears of Wen-Wan's mother. She brought Zuo Ran into the Wen family, raising him as an adopted son. However, Hiseya frowned. Mother Wen didn't like Zuo Ran. In fact, she despised him. So Zuo Ran didn't have a good life in the Wen family. In just a few short sentences, my worldview was repeatedly crushed. But I quickly grasped the main point. I asked in disbelief, "Don't tell me Wen-Wan wanting to be with Zuo Ran is just to spite her mother? Should I praise you for being smart?" Hiseya rubbed her temples, utterly impressed by my ability to catch the main point. She sighed before finally admitting, in the beginning, Wen-Wan getting close to Zuo Ran was indeed to get back at Madame Wen, a rebellious teenage girl. Finding out her mother brought back her first love's son. Even if her mother didn't dote on him, it was enough to make her suspect her mother had betrayed the marriage. So Wen-Wan deliberately pretended to be close to Zuo Ran, even making a huge public confession to him right before the college entrance exams. Sure enough, Madame Wen flew into a rage and immediately wanted to send Zuo Ran abroad. However, Wen-Wan, who had always wanted Zuo Ran gone, threw a massive fit with Madame Wen. This time, even threatening her with her own life. Ultimately, Madame Wen backed down, agreeing to let Zuo Ran attend college domestically, but the condition was forbidding the two from seeing each other. She thought that not seeing each other would make their feelings fade, but little did she know, those 4 years of separation were exactly what caused Wen-Wan's feelings for Zuo Ran to mutate. After Hiseya finished explaining all this, she carefully organized her words. Wen-Wan was indeed outrageously wrong back then, but I immediately cut her off. In my book, right is right, and wrong is wrong. Not to mention, in this whole mess, the only truly innocent one is Zuo Ran. I let out a scoff, my voice carrying a chill I didn't even notice myself. Forget about back then. From what I see, Wen has no intention of letting Zuo Ran go now either. After saying that, I immediately realized my emotions were a bit too intense, so I quickly apologized. Sorry, I wasn't snapping at you just now. I know. Hisaya's voice came through. She didn't seem to mind, and instead proactively changed the subject. She started chatting with me about what to prepare for the sea trip. We talked for quite a while. Before I remembered, Zuo Ran was still alone in the living room, so I took the initiative to wrap up the conversation. Zuo Ran is alone in the living room. I should go keep him company. Who knew Hisaya would ask pitifully, what about me? Hearing her pathetic tone, I couldn't help but purse my lips and laugh, teasing her on purpose. Do you know how the dossier I got described you? Her rising tone was full of confusion. Right after, I used an extremely solemn tone to read out the contents of that dossier. Hisaya, female, 26 years old, current chairman and CEO of Shijin Group, current head of the He family, personality, rational, withdrawn, cold and ruthless, immune to the charms of both men and women. With every extra word I said, I could imagine her blushing a shade deeper on the other end of the line. Sure enough, Hisaya finally couldn't take it anymore. With a hoarse voice, she embarrassedly cut me off. Lu Chen, go keep Zuo Ran company. I'm not done yet. I really couldn't hold back and burst out laughing. My esteemed CEO He, why is it that you're nothing like what the dossier says? I was clearly just teasing her on purpose, but after a few seconds of silence, Hisaya answered seriously. Because I feel like that version of me probably isn't very likable. In an instant, her mood plummeted. Lu Chen, those things you just mentioned, in my eyes, are all flaws in my personality. I suddenly felt a bit sad. Hisaya shouldn't be like this. She could be proud. She could be arrogant. But she should absolutely never be this insecure. Yes, the word insecure felt like a massive boulder pressing on my heart. I immediately shook my head and told her firmly that He family needs someone calm enough, someone strong enough to control everything you possess. How could those be flaws? Not even in your eyes? She asked eagerly, as if wanting to recklessly bare her heart. But the next second, she restrained herself, taking a deep breath. You don't have to answer that. They're not, I blurted out. Hisaya's breathing stopped. She asked uncertainly, what did you say? I let out a soft chuckle and generously repeated myself. I said they're not. The kind of people I admire are exactly the ones who think deeply before reaching their goals, the ones who calculate every step, even if it costs time and energy, even knowing it's impossible, but doing it anyway, yet still refusing to slack off. What I favor is that solitary courage of losing control amidst rationality. My voice was gentle yet firm, like a wind solidified into physical form, letting her truly feel that roaring favoritism. And what I didn't know was, Hisaya on the other end of the phone was repeating my name countless times in her heart. She knew that in this lifetime, she had truly fallen into my hands. As soon as I entered the living room, Zuo Ran turned around and gave me a bright smile. Lu Chen, you're back. I saved some strawberries for you. I gave a hum of acknowledgement, walked quickly to his side, and sat down, picking up a strawberry and popping it into my mouth. Seeing that I was in a good mood, Zuo Ran immediately nudged my shoulder. Was it Hisaya who called you? I raised an eyebrow and asked with a smile, am I being that obvious? Not exactly. Zuo Ran shook his head. It just feels like there are pink bubbles floating all around you. I instantly understood, grinning widely. Take it slow. I prefer the joy of two hearts slowly testing the waters, drawing closer to each other, rather than a passion explosion that ends in bloodshed. Just then, Zuo Ran suddenly remembered something. He handed his phone to me to look at. Luo Sha knows I left the Wen family and asked me out for drinks. He looked at me. He invited you too. Are you going? My gaze fell on his injured knee. Just as I was about to say something, he gave me a reassuring look. Don't worry about me. I have a way. As a result, the next day, I was pushing Zuo Ran, who was sitting in a wheelchair, as we appeared at the mall entrance. Luo Sha saw us and hurriedly ran over. He saw the bandages on Zuo Ran's leg and asked with a worried face, Brother Ran, what happened to your leg? Zuo Ran looked embarrassed. I accidentally fell. He probably didn't expect that my so-called way was to get him a wheelchair. Who knew Luo Sha not only didn't find it weird, but actually breathed a sigh of relief. As long as you're okay. Let's go shopping then. I'm going on a massive shopping spree today. Hearing this, Zuo Ran immediately clutched his wallet in distress. But right at that moment, he paused and looked behind Luo Sha. There's a beauty. Luo Xia turned around curiously, but didn't notice that the moment I saw that figure clearly, my gaze instantly turned ice cold. That woman walked straight toward us. I'm looking for him. She smiled politely at Luo Sha. Then, her affectionate peach blossom eyes locked onto me. Her eyes were filled with uncontrollable longing. She spoke, her voice so gentle it could drown someone. Ah Chen, I've come to take you home. Ah Chen? Hearing this nickname, Luo Xia and Zuo Ran exchanged glances, the flames of gossip burning brightly in their eyes. But when I heard that name, I subtly furrowed my brows, forcing down the disgust churning in my chest. I looked coldly at Shen Qingxuang. Liu Can. What did he trade my location for? The Shen family's reach in Jinshi doesn't extend all the way to Gangcheng. The only ones who could track me down this fast are the local factions in Gangcheng. Shen Qingxuang wasn't surprised at all that I figured it out, but she didn't answer. Instead, she looked at me with a sorrowful expression. She mocked herself. I thought you'd ask how I've been first. Liu Chen, do you know? Every day without news of you has been pure torture. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I spent all my energy just looking for you. I've lost so much weight trying to find you. Can't you tell? In the past, I would have noticed her changes at a single glance. But now, my heart is no longer with her. Shen Qingxuang took a deep breath, a dense, overwhelming pain spreading across her chest. Even breathing became difficult for her. But I remained completely unmoved, just quietly watching her, as if the answer was far more important than she was. Shen Qingxuang's eyes grew red, but she forced a strained smile, trying to defend herself before I could speak. It's okay. You must just be tired from shopping. That's why you didn't notice. Saying that, she tried to step forward and act cute like she used to. But seeing me frown, she stopped in her tracks, at a loss for what to do. I reminded her coldly, ignoring the hesitation in her eyes. Answer my question. This person in front of me used to be my one and only favorite, but now that she showed up uninvited, I really couldn't give her a good look. Shen Qingxuang's hands instantly clenched into fists. Used to my gentle and soft-spoken tone, she simply couldn't accept the coldness in my voice right now. But she also knew that if she didn't play along with me now, I would turn around and leave without a second thought. Weighing her options, she finally spoke. The project in Jinshi, the Liu family wants a piece of it, so that was it. That was the condition Liu consoled my whereabouts for. I let out a low chuckle. Pathetic. If I were Liu Can, I would have demanded a hell of a lot more. Does a mere project match my worth? I think so too. Shen Qingxuang immediately agreed, a glimmer of hope reigniting in her eyes. In her heart, even a project worth hundreds of millions couldn't compare to a single strand of my hair. But this time, I didn't even spare her a glance. I pushed Zhuo Ran's wheelchair. Let's check out the other floors. Zhuo Ran, however, subtly glanced at Shen Qingxuang and shook his head. I'm tired. I raised an eyebrow. Tired? I'm the one pushing the wheelchair, and I'm not complaining. You're the one sitting down, and you're tired first. We haven't even started shopping yet. I smiled helplessly. All right, if you're tired, we won't shop. Then I looked at Luo Xia. Want to hang out at my place? Luo Xia scratched his head awkwardly. Probably not. That silly girl Chu Yu is coming over to have dinner with me later. Zhuo Ran dragged out his words, blinking meaningfully. After all these years, you still only have eyes for Chu Yu. Luo Xia threw his hands up. What can I say? Maybe I just like what I can't have. Zhuo Ran seemed to think of something, and said with a smile, well, you definitely didn't pick the one on hell difficulty. Luo Xia understood immediately. He shook his head frantically. No way, Sister Xia. That's not hell difficulty. That's a one-way ticket straight to hell. Hearing the name Xia, I immediately caught on. I raised an eyebrow. Is Xia really that scary? Luo Xia let out a couple of fake laughs. Your world and my world seem to be completely different. He then wiped away a bitter tear, and patted my shoulder with a look of awe. Good luck, Liu Chen. Once you lock down Sister Xia, I'll finally have some serious backing. Just then a cold voice cut in. Liu Chen, are you and Xia that close? Shen Qingxuang could no longer keep her cool. She stared at me intently. Clearly, the intel Liu Can gave her had mentioned Xia. Shen Qingxuang knew about Xia, a complicated family background, an arrogant personality, and ruthless in her methods. Logically speaking, I would never like such a troublesome type, so Shen Qingxuang hadn't believed it at all before. But now, she looked at me with hurt in her eyes, as if questioning why I had changed. Meeting her wounded gaze, a familiar ache actually welled up in my chest. Damn it, this was just muscle memory from the past acting up. My frown deepened. I was just about to answer, when a tall figure suddenly appeared beside me. Miss Shen, perhaps you should ask me that question instead. A voice devoid of any discernible emotion rang out, carrying a hint of chill. I looked up in surprise. It was actually Xia, looking at her slightly messy hair. She must have rushed over here. I raised an eyebrow at her, a teasing glint in my eyes. What are you doing here? Xia ground her teeth slightly, but had to play along, leaning in close and whispering, a smile tugging at her thin lips. Luo Xia said young Master Lu was tired from shopping, so I came specifically to be your driver. I cast a faint glance at Luo Xia, who instantly shrank back and hid behind Zhuo Ran. I didn't pull away from Xia's proximity. Instead, I handed her my only shopping bag. Then I'll have to trouble President He. Xia didn't hesitate for a second. She reached out with the same hand that had just signed important documents and took it naturally. The car is downstairs. Why don't you head down and wait for me? Her tone carried an undeniable air of authority. All right. I nodded. Without even sparing Shen Qingxuang a glance, I turned and walked away. Shen Qingxuang completely panicked. Xia's appearance was the answer itself. Liu Chen. She reached out to grab me, but her hand was intercepted in midair. It was Xia. The silver watch band on her wrist reflected a cold light. Her well-defined hand tensed with exertion. With just one look, Shen Qingxuang knew that these were the kind of hands I liked. That's right. I have a thing for hands. And she was the only one who knew this secret. Shen Qingxuang's heart was instantly crushed by an invisible, heavy hand. A sharp pain shot through her. She tried her best to maintain her composure. She pulled her hand back, raised her head proudly, and glared sharply at Hisaya. What are you doing, President He? Lu Chen is just throwing a tantrum with me. It's inappropriate for an outsider like you to interfere, isn't it? Throwing a tantrum? Hisaya chuckled lightly, her eyes full of indulgence. Then Miss Shen and I are truly different. She smiled and said, I guarantee I would never let Lu Chen throw a tantrum with me for nearly a month. Moreover, Hisaya's gaze bypassed Shen Qingxuang and looked toward my disappearing figure, her eyes filled with undisguised possessiveness. As far as I know, before Lu Chen even came to Gangchang, he had already broken up with you. Her eyes held a mix of mockery and amusement. That social media post is still up on Lu Chen's feed right now. Did Miss Shen not know? These words accurately struck Shen Qingxuang's sore spot, because she was still sitting on my block list. Shen Qingxuang's palms instantly clenched tight. Her face turned deathly pale, and the gloomy aura around her was terrifyingly heavy. But Hisaya just smiled nonchalantly, even shaking the shopping bag in her hand like a show-off. Young Master Lu is still waiting for me to take him home. Miss Shen, I won't be keeping you company. Seeing her about to leave, Shen Qingxuang emphasized unwillingly. Lu Chen and I are childhood sweethearts. We grew up together. Our relationship isn't something anyone else can step into. Hearing this, Hisaya stopped in her tracks with a cold sneer. She first let out a faint "oh," then lowered her voice and reminded her with pure malice, I wonder, Miss Shen, when you allowed someone else to step into your relationship with Lu Chen, did you ever think about today? Shen Qingxuang's mind buzzed, as if she had been struck by a heavy hammer. Hisaya curled her lips in disdain and strode away, leaving Shen Qingxuang standing there alone, her knuckles white from clenching her fist. Downstairs, Luo Xia leaned against the wheelchair and asked worriedly, Sister Xia, why isn't she down yet? They aren't fighting, are they? Zhuo Ran's eyes widened. She wouldn't beat her to death, right? I was speechless, hearing this, I bet. These two were saying this on purpose, just for me to hear. I rolled my eyes at both of them, before speaking flatly. No. They both looked at me in unison. What do you mean no? No to what? I really couldn't be bothered with these two childish idiots, but I explained anyway. Hisaya won't lay a hand on Shen Qingxuang. Luo Xia had a sudden thought. Why? Isn't she your ex? I couldn't resist smacking him on the head. I said Hisaya won't lay a hand on her. I didn't say she wasn't my ex. Immediately after, I added, an opponent with 0 threat level isn't worth Hisaya getting her hands dirty. Just as I finished speaking, a teasing voice drifted over. Lu Chen, does that mean you have too little confidence in yourself, or too much confidence in me? I immediately looked up. Hisaya was walking over, carrying my shopping bag. She was clearly a high-status CEO, yet here she was holding a shopping bag, and somehow, it looked incredibly harmonious and pleasing to the eye. She met my gaze, actually showing a hint of contemplation. I think Shen Qingxuang is actually a huge threat to me. A very big one. After all, I'm not your childhood sweetheart. I rolled my eyes at her. The fact that Shen Qingxuang didn't chase after us meant she had already handled that woman, playing the victim after winning. Still, since she put in the effort, I should give her some kind of reward. Thinking of this, I beckoned Hisaya with my finger. Come here. Hisaya paused, then strode over to me with her long legs. The moment she stood still, in the very next second, my hand suddenly grabbed her collar. Hisaya's pupils shrank abruptly. Right after, I forcefully pulled her entire body toward me. She involuntarily leaned in close, her flawless skin magnifying infinitely before my eyes. Her breath lingered right at the tip of my nose. Her gaze subconsciously locked onto my lips. Just as she opened her mouth to say something, I beat her to it. Hisaya. A beautiful arc formed at the corners of my lips. Then I raised my hand and gently smoothed her hair. Your hair was messy. I looked completely innocent, without a single impure thought. The moment the words left my mouth, I turned around cleanly, ready to leave, as if the intimacy just now was entirely her own illusion. But having been played by me, how could Hisaya possibly let me go that easily? In a flash, a hand suddenly clamped around my wrist. The next second, she pulled me back in front of her, pressing her other hand against the hood of the car, trapping me right in her arms. Hisaya's tall figure instantly enveloped me completely. She lowered her head, staring at me with dark, intense eyes. She asked word by word, flirting and running. Who taught you that? The gossiping stares from the two bystanders were practically burning a hole through me. My cheeks grew inexplicably hot. Still, I feigned composure and looked up, meeting her dissatisfied gaze, with eyes full of arrogance. You don't like it? I was certain she wouldn't deny it. Sure enough, the next moment, Hisaya's voice came through, carrying a hint of shyness. I like it. Before I even had time to feel smug, Hisaya followed up with a husky, probing tone. So, young Master Lu, could you flirt with me one more time? She lowered her head, that look on her face. She looked exactly like a large dog waiting for its owner to pet it. I was startled by the thought in my own head, but I still pursed my lips, raised my hand and poked her shoulder. No. Why? Hisaya asked, feigning anger. I replied righteously with 3 words. I'm feeling shy. Hisaya sighed helplessly and stepped back. Fine. Then remember to flirt with me when you're not shy anymore. Deal. I nodded, watched her step back, and then bolted without a second thought. But Hisaya, who had anticipated this move, swiftly reached out and blocked me again. Why are you running? I grabbed her arm that was hovering in front of me. Who's running? getting flustered and blushing after trying to flirt with someone else. I would never admit to doing something so stupid, especially not in front of Zuo Ran and Luo Xia, these two gossip-hungry spectators. I cleared my throat and changed the subject. I want to go home. Then I patted her shoulder with a serious face. Take me back, driver he. Hisia smiled helplessly and shook her head, but she actually turned around and loaded everything into the trunk. After moving the things into the living room, I immediately waved at Hisia. Take care, President he, looking completely nonchalant, like I was tossing her aside after using her. But she just raised her hand and gently ruffled my hair. Seeing that I wasn't disgusted, her tense lips finally curved into a smile. I'll have someone bring you food tonight. My heart warmed. I stared at her happily. How did you know I didn't want to go out or cook? She simply stated, weren't you tired? If you're tired, get some good rest. I smiled and walked her to the door, then turned back to the living room. That's when Zuo Ran suddenly spoke up. Sister Xia really seems to treat you differently. I've never seen Xia be so patient and attentive with anyone. This wasn't the first time I had heard this. I leaned lazily against the sofa, looking at the darkening sky outside the window, lost in thought. The Xia in other people's eyes, and the way she was in front of me. Was the difference really that huge? In front of me, she was always so relaxed and at ease. You can't fake that kind of demeanor. But the person I knew, and the person others talked about were two extremes. Which one was the real her? Right at that moment, Zuo Ran suddenly called out to me. Lu Chen, what are you thinking about? I snapped back to reality, and casually spouted nonsense. I was thinking about what delicious food Xia is going to arrange for me tonight. Unexpectedly, right after I spoke, there was a knock on the door. I immediately stopped. An excited Zuo Ran. I'll get it. You wait here. But when I opened the door, I froze. Besides the delivery guy, there was someone else at the door. Luo Xia, what are you doing here? Didn't you say you were going on a date with Chu Yu? Who knew that in the very next second? Luo Xia burst into tears with a loud wail. Lu Chen, I hate Chu Yu so much. I quickly comforted him, while gesturing for the delivery guy to bring the food inside. Only after the guy left did I ask him what happened. I waited for Chu Yu for half an hour. Luo Xia complained between sobs, and in the end, she said she never even agreed to have dinner with me. She was just messing with me on purpose. And Luo Xia gritted his teeth. I just found out from Chu Li that Chu Yu is just sitting around doing nothing at the Chu house right now. At this point, he cried even harder, his voice going hoarse. She'd rather sit at home doing nothing than spend time with me. Am I really that annoying to her? Luo Xia cried until he was out of breath. Finally, he asked me pitifully, Lu Chen, am I really, truly that unlikable? I quickly handed him a tissue. Of course not. You're very likable. I emphasized seriously. Incredibly likable. Then why has Chu Yue never liked me? Luo Xia, as the only son, had been spoiled rotten since childhood,